like in the military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have a motion to approve the agenda for the business meeting tonight of November 18th, 2024.
Kelly and Jim?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Move us to open forum. The Greenville Central School District wishes to facilitate public access to the meetings of the Board of Education and to provide an opportunity for public comment at these meetings. Accordingly, the open forum provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts about topics on the agenda. An individual's comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Additionally, comments may be emailed to the district clerk, Daphne Pearson, using the email pearsond@greenvillecsd.org. In order for an email to be read during the meeting, it must be received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting and state that the email is to be read out loud. Emails shall be limited to 600 words. Please note that this is not the time to register complaints that need to be addressed confidentially through the proper channels. Remarks that might be considered defamatory, stigmatizing, or otherwise impermissible in public forums are prohibited and will be declared out of order. Board members actively listen during open forum, but may not immediately respond to comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Do we have any emails?
We do not.
Okay, then I am going to move us on to presentations. So the first one we have Lise Wickham, the athletic update for the fall season. Come on down. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Most of you know that Lynn is an admin in training, so she's been putting in hours for her administrative certificate. And so she has graciously said that she would do this presentation for fall athletics. So she's very excited. Please be easy on her.
Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
Okay, to get started, this is just going to be a recap of our fall athletic program and just letting you know participants and accolades and just appreciation of all put together. I promise to keep it under 10 minutes. You can always do the gong and get the gong taking face. Okay. Just to let you know, between JV and varsity athletics, we had about 109 total participants and 68 at the modified level, which gave us 177 total participating athletes in the school. We've done very, very well, but the modified numbers are low, so we definitely have a little work cut out for us getting those 9th graders involved. So that's something that is a work in progress. Starting off with the boys cross country. As you can see, we are June conference champions. In our first team all-conference was Jacob Ford, Cohen Wilbur, Clarence Cochran. And second team was Canyon Baraka Komaki. Thank you. Okay. And that put us at another accolade of the 2024 Green. We had Coach Jolly Tracy receiving Coach of the Year, having a Scholar Athlete team. The Scholar Athletes were Clarence Cochran, Alex Paquette, Jacob Ford, Canyon, and Anthony Zhang.
I will say that they squeaked out beat them, which put them in a tie, and since they won the championship. So it could not have been any closer.
Okay, for the girls cross-country team this year, 2024 Patroon All-Conference. First team participant was Bryn Fitzmaurice, who I also would like to say was dueling this year. We'll also see more athletes coming up for tennis. And second team was Evelyn Cochran, Charlotte Dawson, and Danielle Arbor. They were also second place Greene County Championship team and third place in the Patroon Conference. They were also a scholar athlete team, and those athletes were Zoe Cummings, Charlotte Dawson, Danielle Albert, Evelyn Cochran, and Bryn Fitzmaurice. Our golf did amazing this year. I think there was 15 golfers, so that the team was growing very large. For our all-conference members this year, for first team was Sean Kenna and Landon Smigel. Sean was a sectional qualifier along with Landon, and then on top of that, Sean Kenna was a 2024 state qualifier. So definitely got some young golfers coming up that are going to be really good in the next couple of years. Boys soccer, we're a soccer school. So again, 2024 Patroon Conference Championship. They played absolutely amazing this year. The first team members were Lucas Russell, Isaac McEnany, Jonas Britton. Second team was Caleb Flegning, Foster Britton. They're a scholar athlete team. Their scholar athletes were Beckett Costage, Anthony Tavey, Christopher Hughes, Isaac McEnany, Deacon Brown, Lucas Russell, Foster Britton, Jonas Britton, Titan Overbach, and Caleb Flegning.
The boys soccer team also made it to the sectional finals this year.
Girls soccer, 2024 Patroon Conference Co-Championships. We also were able to put up a MVP for the Patroon Conference, Ella Groupie. For first team was Emerson Groupie, Julia Reinhardt, Carolyn Costage, Molly Gardner. Second team, Morgan Crawley. They are 100% scholar athletes, so every single member on the team had over a 90 average. Yeah. And they were Claire Ingalls, Jolene Frank, Elizabeth Davis, Ariana Good, Isabella Hunter, Alana McDonald Katz, Morgan Crawley, Catherine Cullen, Molly Gardner, Ava McEnany, Julie Reinhardt, Carrie Flannery, Ella Groupie, Emerson Groupie, and Carolyn Costage. Just amazing girls. Tennis, 2024 Patroon Conference champion. Their league record was 10-0 overall, 12-3. We were able to secure another Patroon Conference MVP, Bryn Fitzmaurice. And just some things to note, that she played over 50 matches. She played 120 games this year and won them all. She's an incredible athlete and dueled between cross country and tennis. Second team, all conference members were Ava Bryant and Layla Overbaugh. Greenville again was able to secure another Coach of the Year, Matt Lacey. First year coaching tennis and first year hitting Coach of the Year. 2024 Scholar Athlete Team again. The Scholar Athletes were Alana Krantz, Jasmine Ellis, Annie Albertson, Ava Bryant, Cadence Gallagher, Riverland Clifford, Bryn Fitzmaurice, Lola Frame, Claire Lounsbury, and Layla Overbaugh. And just Bryn was 11, and she was one out of one game out of I want to say this long.
So they made it to the sectional
semis, I guess you would say. She's top 4 in the individuals in tennis, which is amazing when you think about that whole bracket, how many people are actually, vying for that spot. So she was shy one place. If she had won her last match, she would have gone on to states. She also was 11th at cross country, and 10th would have secured her a spot going to states. So.
Girls volleyball. Second place for Trinity Conference. Our overall record was 14-1. We were able to secure another MVP. She shared it with Maple Hill, and our recipient was Lily Hughes. First team all-conference member was Gabrielle Itzka. We were able to play up north, and up north volleyball is where you have to get by. We played at the Galloway tournament, Folds of Honor. We came in second place on gold, beating quite a lot of higher class schools. Third place here at Greenville tournament in gold, and we were first place in the Reno Summer League. I was nominated as Coach of the Year, so that was kind of nice to go out with Olivia. We have a 2024 Scholar Athlete team, and those athletes were Samantha Capazzi, Molly Robertson, Kaylin Albano, Yo Anami, Violet Gulasane, Julia Herbeck, Olivia Hughes, Gabrielle Itzka, Gianna Lenaro, and Gigi Stewart. And lastly, I'd just like to take a moment for appreciation and acknowledgement. And the first I would really like to acknowledge is transportation. We all know that Mary Judicus is amazing, and we're lucky to have her. She is a puzzle master. Mary and Denise spent many hours reconfiguring schedules, pushing back sometimes games so that they could leave at 3:45 and still play, sending buses just for pickups, sending buses. I can't even just tell you all the wonderful things that were behind the scenes, but we started out the season with, we have a bus driver shortage, but the facts were that out of 98 trips, sports trips taken, there are only 5 that required parent transportation. So I think that's a huge, amazing feat, considering there was probably about 5 to 6 bus drivers that were actually able to come back on time. So I have the numbers.
Yeah, but you know what's doing.
So soccer had boys modified, and actually had 3 levels.
So cross country is modified and varsity, and that's always been required. And then we go to golf, which is just varsity. And then soccer, boys soccer.
That was just modified JV and varsity.
And girls soccer.
We were able to field a modified and a varsity team this year.
And tennis.
Tennis was modified, no, just varsity, only girls, and then volleyball was actually, we turned down numbers. We had very, very high numbers in volleyball, so we had modified JV and varsity.
Everybody wants to play volleyball right now. It's booming everything. Maybe it's because of the coach. Did I answer that?
Thank you.
The only team that we didn't field was the JV girls soccer, and we haven't had it for a while.
The space of numbers.
Yes. We have 15 varsity athletes, and I believe it was 20 modified athletes. So it's just getting those 8th graders that are moving up, but we don't have enough at the upper end. I think our numbers are low in the 9th and 10th grade classes. So like as I was looking through, the 9th and 10th grade classes are low.
Denise, are you seeing this as a general pattern across the Pachuca Conference where schools are struggling to get either a modified or a JV team?
Yes. So there are basketball teams this year that I think there's been 4 schools right now that have folded their JV girls basketball programs already. And those numbers, the basketball team is 5. Right? So you could actually do a season with 9 and they don't have the numbers.
Denise, is it an instance where a lot of the students are playing up out of their normal age, not to say normal age group, but are we taking students who should be in JV, bringing them up to varsity and creating a hole?
Here, no,
Okay.
I don't think that we are. I think we had one or two APP student athletes in the fall. But other schools are definitely moving kids up, and it depletes.
Thank you very much. If you could send the presentation to Daphne and then she can, you got it? Okay, great. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Great job, Lynn.
I'm going to move us on to the school comprehensive educational plans for the 24-25 year, and the administrators are going to be presenting.
Good evening, everybody. We're pleased to present our ongoing progress with our building and district continuous improvement plans. This presentation tonight will highlight our key goals and priorities for the current academic year, which are designed to foster student engagement, support safe and inclusive environments, and strengthen partnerships with our families and the community. Each of our schools has developed unique initiatives. They've aligned them with our district's overarching goals, and they are ensuring that we are addressing the needs of all of our students. We're looking forward to sharing our progress with you tonight and showing the community how we continue to work together to make Greenville a school where everyone learns, teaches, and belongs. Just to begin and update you on where we are in the board-approved school improvement calendar here in November. Tonight, we're going to present our building continuous improvement plans and give you an update on the work thus far. In the background, I'm also working on compiling the progress monitoring chart that we use to measure the progress of our work mid-year and at the end of the year. This is one of the tools that's reviewed during our mid-year data review, as well as our July school improvement workshop. With the development calendar being reviewed here, let's go ahead and review the core structure of our continuous improvement plan that guides our process. Well, here's a quick refresher on our improvement framework. We have our DSIP, the District Continuous Improvement Plan, and it has 3 overarching goals and 4 priorities. It's designed to align closely with each building's improvement plan, and it creates a unified framework across the district. And then each building has its own BSIP, or Building Continuous Improvement Plan, also 3 goals and 4 priorities. And these plans are supported by the DSIP. And the idea there is to try to promote coherence and consistency across schools and the district. The model on the right shows our focused acts of improvement. And that emphasizes the continuous cycle we follow: plan, implement, evaluate, improve. And everything in this process is guided by our vision, our mission, and our core values. So just keep these in mind and this process in mind as we discuss updates and goals today. Please allow me to begin with an overview and an update on where we're at with our district goals. Beginning with curriculum, first I'm really excited to talk about the work we've been doing on implementing bookworms. We're making great strides in implementing the bookworms curriculum, which is also part of Ellis's BSIP, and that's because we placed a real high priority on getting this right. So to begin with, over the summer, we invested in training for administrators and teachers. And this training, as well as coaches, and that's continuing through conferences, workshops, and collaborative support sessions with coaches from the Bookworms program. Our district literacy coaches are going to visit South Glens Falls this week to see the program in action firsthand. For classroom teachers and interventionists, we started looking very closely at the differentiated instruction block. We set up lab classrooms in the school, and our classroom teachers and interventionists visited, and they have now seen what that component of this program looks like in a Greenville classroom with Greenville students, Greenville teachers teaching. So very concrete of what that intervention differentiated instruction block will look like. And the reason why we chose to start there is that is where we are integrating really great reading, our phonics program, with the bookworms program. So a lot of important work being done there. We are planning on using that same model with the lab classroom visits as we roll out the other two components of the bookworms program. Also like to point out an in-service opportunity that we're really excited about. We have a book study that's being offered after school, led by our literacy coaches. That's actually on the Bookworms Teacher's Guide, and Bookworms Teacher's Guide isn't what you would think of as a normal teacher's guide. It's actually the philosophy behind why the program is designed the way it is and how to carry that out, not just lesson by lesson. So almost every single classroom teacher at Ellis has signed up to be part of this, and this is going to give us a running head start as we continue on through the rest of the school year. We feel like we're in a really good place for bookworms. To touch on the continuous program review process, this year we've integrated this process into the department chair goals for the high school, and that's underway. At the end of this December, those will be due and reviewed. The departments have been working on completing them, and some have already finished and are sharing them with us. In January, the principals and I will review and identify how we can support these teams and departments in the work that they seek to accomplish. Looking at Goal 2, culture. In order to provide a safe and positive school culture, we're offering a number of different things. We have trained a cohort of students with CARES training. In addition to that, we've also trained a cohort of adults, all PPS members and some TAs on our recent Superintendent's Conference Day. We've also trained an additional group of students on bystander training. And during the month of October, we rolled out use of the Stop It reporting tool at the middle school and the high school. And this is a reporting tool founded on the idea of see something, say something. Trying to get an opportunity for students to have a direct line to their building principals without having to go to the office or be seen speaking to one of them. Not that anybody would not want to be seen talking to you guys, but yeah. Sorry. So there's been a little bit of business so far in there where people have reached out and made a couple of reports, and really that's been since October 28th, I believe, is when it opened. So we'll continue to promote the use of that. As of right now, it remains as a bookmark on all student Chromebooks. It's linked in the daily bulletin to all students. There's been an announcements campaign, and we have posters up around the school, particularly in all the bathrooms, so people can, if they needed to scan that code, they could do it in a way where others wouldn't see them scanning that code and being able to make a report that way.
Matt, for that, are you seeing any trends or anything in the few data points that have been submitted?
I wouldn't say there's anything that's overarching all in one direction, but all are good, good things to know, right? That people that are reaching out, some, as was initially expected, there were initial kind of just tests, like, is this thing on? Is anybody going to answer me back, right? So we had some of those right away, and that's what we were told would happen. And then other things that have come in that are, general school things that we want to know. So positives.
Also, Matt, Is that anonymous, or do you know who is recording it?
It is anonymous. So we could follow up and say, hey, could you tell me a little bit more? And if it's something that we really need to talk to somebody about, ask if they'd feel comfortable meeting with, a guidance counselor, social worker, administrator, but it begins anonymous. Good question. Switching over to our community goal. So recognizing the importance of effective school-home communication, we've been providing training for our admin and teachers on key strategies to communicate effectively. Some of the things that we've done, we've rolled out some teacher home communication templates for writing and for phone calls. That happened in September. We did a Writing for Busy Readers PD in October. And just today, we had another professional development on effective verbal and telephone communication. So each building will now share their BSIP updates as part of our Q1 progress review. Teams are going to present their selected strategies, measures of success, and provide a little snapshot of the work in progress. Feel free to ask questions as each building presents. And they're going to present in the order of middle school, high school, and then Ellis.
Okay, good evening. Tonight, Jim Hutchins and our middle school BLT chairperson and I will discuss the middle school goals that were formulated this summer for 3 days, 2 in July. We met again in August after taking a little break from the 2 days because it was a lot of data to take in. But before we do start, I want to just, thank Jim for his leadership as a chairperson. He does a great job with it and truly defines what a teacher leader is. And then also just to our faculty and staff for always being open, for trusting the people who are on the BLT, who are representing, whether it's the teachers, our GPF, our parents are on there, and the process the time they put in to help formulate these goals too. So it's just a kudos to our whole building for, again, taking on the goals each year, knowing that we're trying to do better things for our students. At this time, I'm going to start out with Jim. He's going to start talking about explicit teaching of study skills and organizational skills. With goal 1, we took a little bit different of a turn this year with our approach about curriculum.
Good evening, and I'd like to add that one of the nice things about being chair of BLT is that Mr. Reed doesn't look at it as just like a rubber stamp body for whatever he is thinking of, but it's a true collaborative process. So goal 1 is about curriculum, and the first strategy we were focusing on based on the summer workshop and when we got together as a building to talk was explicit teaching of study skills and organizational skills. Because what we've become aware of in the last year or two, I would say, is that in a way that is with greater urgency, that students seem to struggle with knowing how to study, because many of them have not done it up to this point, or how to stay organized. And that's even with the fact that the organizational demands on them are somewhat less now because so much of their work is on Google Classroom. It's not as many papers. So on different teams, we're trying to figure out how to help them with this, whether it's having specific folders for classes, a homework folder, on how to talk about. We're all trying to focus and talk to them about how to study. Not just assuming they know how to study, talking about how they need at this point in their education to figure out what way of studying works for their brain. That includes making up things like how to study for quizzes and tests, making up a resource on how to stay organized at home. So what we're looking for as a measure of success for this is an increase in students' self-reported studying and organizational skills. So we've already done a pre-assessment at the beginning of the school year on both organizational study skills and also, as Mr. Reed will talk about, growth mindset. And we're hoping for a decrease in total course failures and improvement in some of the perception survey results.
Thank you, Jim. With growth mindset strategies, again, kind of we took an approach with this of taking a look at just, last year our course failures were up, and it was kind of why are course failures up? Is it because students don't know how to do the curriculum, or are they just not, again, not sure how to study, or they're not organized, or again, is their mind, they don't just have the right mindset for preparing themselves, okay? So we took a look at that of just trying to promote more of a culture in the school of relevance and value towards even standardized tests that may not have a grade for their quarter, but also just even their quarter grades too, all right, and the importance behind those, and the belief that they do have the ability to grow also. So we started out, again, as Jim mentioned, doing kind of a pre-assessment that we're compiling the data from, that we do with students on one, studying organizational skills and growth mindset skills, which then we'll be doing a post-assessment come spring. But the PPS department, our school psychologist, school counselor, our social worker, and I had a meeting in September and October just to kind of come up with a plan for how we want to kind of roll this out. And what type of strategies, lessons are we trying to teach to change that language. We will be in December going into some faculty meetings. We want to talk to our faculty first and staff about why we're doing kind of growth mindset, making sure everyone understands what it means when we're talking about it, so that then when we have our PPS department head into some of the classrooms and are teaching lessons, so the teachers can continue to support and build off of what's happening in the lessons. So really, our ultimate goal is to kind of promote more of that mindset language, even when, as adults, when we speak to students, all right, of, well, yeah, I can't do it yet, but, but not that you just can't do it, and so trying to change those mindset, but then also, how can we get that as a building approach daily too? The whole idea of just getting students to understand that you can learn this, you eventually will learn this, but if that perseverance, they're going to have, and how we teach that and promote that with our students. So in the end, really, we're, from a quantitative standpoint, really, again, taking a look at our quarter failures. We will compare last year to this year as we go along through the year here. Our numbers were up some last year, but again, when we looked at that, it was like, is our students failing? We kind of asked that question this summer because they don't necessarily understand it, or is it more because they're maybe not studied or organized, or just, if it's a standardized test, maybe just don't care so much, so how do we change that? We're also going to be taking a look at some of our perception survey that we've continued to use now for 8-9 years that has some of the questions. If you remember, the perception survey is based off a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 1 the lowest, and there was a couple statements in there that we felt we would focus on. From the student standpoint, it was I can be a better student. Last year it was at 3.87, which isn't awful, but we were definitely trying to find those things. We're trying to get into the low 4s for the end of the year. And then also the student perception survey results on my teacher believes I can learn will increase from a low 4, like 4.08 to about 4.2, 4.3. So again, just trying to increase those from a quantitative standpoint. Questions on that? Slide 1.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so one of the things you've said several times is that you're looking to find the answer to, I'll say, the failure rate that's going on. And this is I guess, a question for you to think about. How will you know when you know the answer to that? Is it going to be January or March, or is it going to be then?
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to be taking a look at each quarter, where we are with failures compared to last year. All right, but then also, from a growth mindset standpoint, it could take a while. Yeah.
Right, I'm not looking at it from the number perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective that you're asking yourself whether it's an organizational issue or a learning issue, and when will you know if those are the components that are causing the failure or if it's some other factor?
I mean, we're always going to keep looking at our academic instruction too. We'd also want to take a different approach this year. I think from our pre-assessment, and once we have that data and try to compare it again at the end of the year to see what students are saying about themselves, we're hoping our students will say they feel more confident in their different abilities, whether studying or organize themselves, or just even their own growth mindset also. But then also, again, trying to take a look at our, again, standardized results and things like that. Is some of this work helping? I mean, we were trying to really look at it from things from a different approach, but also not taking a look of ignoring our instructional praxis too.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If I can put on my science teacher hat and add something to that, when you are doing more than one intervention, and let's say we get the results we're looking for, there is actually no way to know exactly which intervention did it. But at the same time, we can't wait and do like controlled studies where we only try one thing each year and see if that works. So there's a science to this, but there's also an art to this, and there's also an urgency to it that, you know, you're trying different things, and based on the data we have, but also based on the teachers and the other staff who are participating in this process and what they see compared to what they've seen in the past. And I think we definitely, maybe trace it back to COVID, but we definitely see a drop-off in study skills and organizational skills.
Thank you. So you're going to willing to accept whatever makes it better?
Well, anything, no. There are limits, but yes, anything that makes it better, makes it better.
And in general, just if we don't know the exact answer, but we just feel also felt that these are things that we did need to take a refocus on as a building. You know, just our praxis of study skills and organizational skills. So whether that is the overall answer, we also felt it was something we needed to kind of do a refresher on as a building too, of saying we need to do a little better job of this too. So that also factored into it too. Again, it might not figure out the exact answer, but where we're at.
It's all positive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just really quick, as a mom of a middle schooler that you're currently dealing with, thank you for all the organizational, I feel like you can't over-teach organization, so it's never not worth the time, and these kids really need it. So thank you.
If I could just say, I think that the executive functioning sometimes is overlooked because as adults, we just assume everyone knows how to do it.
Right.
But for middle schoolers in particular, you know, teaching them, these are some of the things that are going to make you more efficient, becomes a win-win, but they have to be taught, so kudos.
And just overall, middle school was a big change from kind of that one classroom to now 8 teachers in a day telling you different things and figuring that out.
And when I talk to students about this in class, I say this is more important than anything else I'm teaching this year, because this will help you with your classes the rest of your life, but life in general. You know, other things like goal setting and believing that you can learn and that you have resilience when things are difficult, and what it feels like to struggle but still go on. And all of those things are the most important thing, but all that does come as a cost in terms of it, you know, in terms of curriculum time. So I think that's part of what Mr. Reed was suggesting too, is that we're looking at this a slightly different lens, where we're saying it's not enough to hit the curriculum, that this is maybe even more foundational, more important, even though it means giving up time in class to do other things.
Yeah, which of course begs the question, is some of it could, you know, in the 5th grade, or as they become upper elementary, but food for thought.
Question, are you guys doing anything that communicates this to home so that it can be continued on there, educating parents on what the growth mindset language looks like for those that need help with that kind of thing?
We have some, and we will continue to. Like, you know, recently we had in there tips for parents at home, how does they organize at home. That was something we had compiled in the summer. Sierra put her magic touch to it, and we made a nice PDF to put out to the parents. So that's been out in the Spark Snapshot the past few weeks. The 7th grade and some of the teams are putting together some of their different expectations, and they're trying to get that out to parents. So, and we have some things once we get more of the growth mindset stuff that we want to set them also to try to encourage that language of the stuff students struggling at home at night. You know, what can you kind of say to them to help support them? So again, and offer it as tips. We don't want people to change everything up if there's something working, but we're also offering for people to look at it and review.
I have a quick question. This is one, sorry. What specific things have you guys done to help with like the studying thing specifically? Because I know that there's an SOS class or something like that. Is it that? But still, Because
Yes.
when I was in middle school, we had that, but I was in jazz band and band, so I didn't have it, so I'm just curious as to what you guys do to like teach like study skills and different kinds of studying.
So she's taken the approach of, one, to try to really help its study organizational skills of working on growth mindset, working on some organizational skills for a lot of the classes they're in currently, and what it means to study and stay organized for those classes. So that's the nice thing about the team, is they're together with it. There are a couple students, you're right, because SOS is actually an elective as long as so is jazz band. And if you're in jazz band, SOS is something a few of the jazz band students don't take, which is unfortunate, but the majority of our students are taking that. She's actually been revamping the curriculum this year to try to focus on a lot of things that we've been talking about as a BLT, and how can each teacher, there's basic study skills too, and there's options how you can study, but then also what does it mean to study for math versus ELA? And so a lot of the teachers are trying to narrow that down more too, and be more detailed about even their own class. So they're trying to focus on general studying tips, and then more narrowed down each of the classes too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think it's really, I don't know if you guys do this because I didn't take the class, but it's very important, I think, to teach like specific methods, because I know like it took me until I think junior year of high school to actually learn the method that works for me. I didn't even know like study methods existed.
Right.
So I think it's important also, like, if possible, if it doesn't take away from like too much like class time, to kind of like implement like maybe like 1 or 2 days during the school year where you kind of like in that like 7th grade, maybe like, hey students, this is like for like math class, this is how you can study, these are the different methods you can use. Like, I know there's like different names and stuff like that that work for different students, and then you can have like an activity in class that actually like helps them apply it so they can figure it out on their own. Because I think a big thing with like students like not studying and not getting like better grades and stuff like that comes from the fact that they don't know how to like study and they don't know how to teach themselves, because some kids don't learn the best in class, you know what I mean? Like,
I do. We appreciate you sharing that.
And the other thing is some kids get frustrated because they do what they think is studying and then they don't do any better. So figuring out how to study. So like in the 7th grade, we made up tips on how to study for each specific classes, quiz and test. And actually at the beginning of the school year, and I shared it with the middle school, I did an experiment where it was a list of 10 vocabulary words that they probably wouldn't know. And I had one period where I just read the words and the definitions to them once, and they took a short quiz. Another class where I gave them a printout of it, and they could read it over themselves, and they took a quiz. And then the last class, they got study cards, and they quizzed each other. And that was the only class that got a passing average grade on it. So I used that, and I showed it to them, and I showed it to them again before their first unit test to try and, and talk about how to be engaged and how to study in a way that's effective. Because it's not just about how much time you spend studying. It's about finding an effective way to study.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that should definitely be something that's done more often. And even like expanding outside of those 3, like obviously you can't take away from a lot of class time, but kind of like expanding outside of just like those 3 basic study methods. Because I know, like for me, this is kind of like what you did, but like learning is like a really good one for, it's like a method used for a lot like science, English stuff like that's longer. And basically it's where you like teach it, or they read it or something, and then they write everything they remember. And then they kind of go through and they're like, I missed this, I messed this up, stuff like that. And I feel like that works for me, but some students don't even know that like exists. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to like do that more often.
I agree. But things have to be age appropriate and you scaffold throughout the years of our education too.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your insight to the student. Moving on to slide 2. So in slide 2, one of the things we looked at this year again is, this is our culture, and I would say part of goal 1 kind of overlaps in the culture also, just in terms of with growth mindset. But we focused for this year working on each grade level, being consistent with classroom behavior, and we're still using our PBIS program, our Positive Intervention Supports program, which was created several years back with building agreeing upon set expectations for what it means to, we have our 3 Bs of be kind, be responsible, be best you can be, whether in the hallway, the classroom, on the bus, in the cafeteria. And there are general expectations that are asked of students throughout the building. one of the things from discussions this summer, looking at the data and looking at like discipline referrals of, what was the most common discipline referral, some of it was disruption in the classroom. All right, and that's, let's face it, that's where most of the students are most of the day anyways too. So that's higher just in terms of time in the classroom. But teams met this summer to talk about what are some other classroom consistent expectations that could be done by each team so that people are not becoming frustrated with some of the simple behaviors that are taken away from class instruction, whether it's students coming to class late, whether it's dealing with a cell phone, whether it's Chromebook not charged, not having a charge, or things like that. So each of the teams kind of met together either towards the end of the summer or here in September to come up with some of those expectations they felt were problems kind of their grade level. Ironically, they're all fairly consistent across 3 grade levels when you look at them, so which is good because it helps our shared staff who are maybe teaching 6th, 7th, 8th grade or 7th and 8th. And so they've compiled that and they've shared that with students. Posting it in their classrooms so that, how are the teams consistently dealing with it when students come into class late and they don't have a reason for being late? Is the team consistently dealing with a student who comes in with a Chromebook? Is there consistent policy for, and this goes back into, if you look up there, we talked about reinforcing the use of our minor infraction logs. That was part of our PBIS program where staff members, faculty staff, are really trying to handle some of the minor disciplines within their classroom on their own with students. 99% of the times, a lot of those students corrected from that conversation with that teacher, or the teacher may even call home, or the teacher talking one-on-one. But there was other things that needed to be we felt from looking at the fraction log that need to be reinforced in the classrooms. So that is rolling, and I feel like some of those things, I'm not hearing so much about cell phones. I know some teachers are dealing with times, but I think a lot of students are correcting them. As I said at one other point earlier in the year, we had a really good conversation with students about that. Just that, hey, you've seen other schools who are taking them away. Let's hope we can keep it at a point where we don't have to. And a couple of the students that are having a problem with it, we're intervening with that, kind of moving into other interventions with them. Whether it's checking it in at the beginning of class in my office or things like that, then those are things we'll deal with. But again, I think overall, that's the biggest thing, is trying to have more consistent expectations. Again, if they're hitting 6 or 7 different teachers in a day, everybody's got to stay consistent with the language. Ways we're going to measure that, again, is taking a look at our discipline referrals, our things we always are looking at. Last year, this year we're trying to get, when we talk about tier 3, that's our students have maybe three or more discipline referrals in a year. Last year that was like at 10%, we're trying to get that down to 5. And that was like about 24 students in that 10%. So we are trying to cut that in half and work with students that are not having a lot of students at just upper levels. But again, we have many students, last year our tier 1 was at 78%. It was like 193 of our 245 students who had no referrals. So again, trying to keep that, but knowing also that we still need to address some of the little minor behaviors that are occurring in the classroom to not have those interruptions. Do you want to add anything to that or no? Good?
No, I think not.
All right. Any good questions on that one?
So Brian, tier 1 is no referrals at all throughout a quarter, the year?
About the year.
Okay.
Year. So when last year tier 1 we were at 78%, I think it was like 193 students didn't have a discipline referral. Now, it's not to say a few of those students didn't have their name written down in our minor infraction log. So each team has their own minor infraction. We have a minor infraction log where teachers will put in there so they can see students who may have started having some behavior issues. But usually if it's a lot of those students, they correct the problem once they've been spoken to by that teacher once. And it leaves, the relationship between the teacher and the student. And that's trying to keep that built.
Okay, so then moving on to goal 3, which is our goal around community. What we decided as a BLT to focus on in middle school was first of all, making sure we had the preferred method of communication for each family. So the way we tried to do that was send out a Google form at the beginning of the school year. Due to some technical issues that were my fault, it didn't really roll out quite as well as we thought it was going to, so we'll give that another swing next year. But what we did instead is, especially for 6th and 8th grade level, Scott Gardner got us the information from Synergy, and we used that to create a Google sheet that lists each student, the name of the adults in their life, parent, guardian, caregiver, phone numbers, and email addresses. And then as we contact them, the idea is that whoever contacts them first, we try and find out what their preferred method is. Or at the very least, realize that they're not getting a response to one way, then use another way, and then list that as preferred contact. It doesn't always require an explicit conversation to find this out. And so what used to just be the infraction log for each grade level, we've now made it 3 tabs, and one of them is the infraction log, the other one is the contact log and info. So as I said, that's the one that has a row for each student. But then below that, teachers and staff can insert rows detailing any contact they've had with home. And so the idea there is if we can use that, then we get to see what everyone is doing when they're contacting home. And that just makes it better for shared information. And the third tab is our discipline flow chart that the BLT came up with several years ago based on input from the staff. And I'm already seeing the difference because having all 3 of those in one spot, I think makes it easier to maintain the infraction log and maintain the contact log, because at the same moment you're writing in the infraction that was a contact home, you're just clicking on another tab and maybe copying and pasting what you wrote there into the contact log. So I think this will be a good thing, and I think we'll see it in terms of the communication being better, and also the parent-staff perception survey results dealing with communication. Any questions on that?
I just have a comment. The communication at the middle school is amazing. I've had a few calls and emails, and I always get a phone call, and people take the time to listen to me rant as a mom, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the middle school team?
You don't wait, you just ask them as you go down.
Don't need that slide.
Okay, I'm here today with Brenda Schultz, and we are going to talk about our high school goals. So I'm going to pass it off to Brenda for goal 1. Good evening. Goal number 1 focused on curriculum. And for this, we had 2 strategies that we've been focusing on so far this year. And they will sound a bit familiar. We've just kind of amped them up or taken a different twist or attack at them. So the first one is supporting student engagement. Last year, we had some PD. We had a group of teachers from Hudson that came here and presented some different strategies, and we kind of built off of that, worked on that last year. This year we're creating a teacher's toolbox of engagement strategies. This fall already, Aaron Sharkey and myself were asked to present at a faculty meeting, and at that faculty meeting we presented the toolbox collection, which is a Google Doc, where anybody can throw different engagement strategies that they use in their classroom that they found helpful. They can kind of dump it there. And then if somebody else is struggling with a class or with relationship building, then they could look there for something that maybe they want to try out. So at the actual presentation of this, we worked with some strategies that I've used in my classroom, which was
organized chaos, but it worked well, and I think some people have used it since then, so that's good, Jack. And then we've also, yes.
Just in addition to the Hudson teachers coming last year, there was also a teacher from Tech Valley that came and she presented, and we were having her come back this year to do kind of like a part 2 on that as well.
And the collaborative classroom visits, which I feel is like a little bit like my baby, because this I've just been very passionate about, and I was really hoping that it would take off, and thankfully this year it's starting to take flight, and I'm so excited. The collaborative visits we have talked about for a couple of years, and we've been trying to like fine-tune the process, and now I think we've gotten into a point where people feel comfortable asking and going into somebody else's classroom. And as a result, I'm only going to speak about myself and the couple of people that have come to visit my classroom. One, I will not name the person because I did not ask permission. So one of the visits, they wanted to focus on classroom structure and organization and kind of transition from one activity to another. So they came, they were very kind of in the back corner, kind of taking notes and that kind of thing. I did speak with Mike Morelli, he's an ELA teacher who also asked to come and join my class. And I think he started with that kind of perception, but then there was too much fun to be had in chemistry, and so he jumped right in, and he became a part of the class, and he was smiling, and he was having fun, and he was like leaning over to the students, and he's like, how do I do this? And they're like, I don't know, we just gotta learn it. And so it was a great experience. I was a very proud person standing off in the corner watching it kind of develop and unfold. You know, as a result of that experience, and this I had never even thought of when I thought about the positives that this could have, the positive impacts in our school. But after Mr. Morelli left our class, we had a double period, and it was a lab period. And one of the students asked during the 3-minute break time, they're like, why was he here? And I said, well, you know, teachers need to learn too. So we're just trying to go see other teachers, see what they have to offer, what works in their classes, maybe it would work in our class. And, you know, we just need to always be looking for something to learn. And the students were like excited about that. They're like, that makes a lot of sense. It was really cool having him in here. So that was something that I didn't envision when I saw the possibilities.
So in terms of, Brenda, it just helps to humanize the teachers that, you know, while you are perfect, you know.
Oh no,
no, that's comfortable. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. So yeah.
No, my students are encouraged to point out my fallibilities because they are numerous.
I think what Brenda just mentioned too was one of those unexpected takeaways, and we've talked about that a lot. We read a short article during a faculty meeting on why it's important to visit one another's classrooms, and I think to me that was the biggest takeaway, was that you might go there for classroom organization, but if you pick up another piece, whether it be classroom management, how to maybe use an instructional strategy and bring it back to your classroom, it's those unexpected takeaways that are going to be really important for our faculty.
I have a question about that. You mentioned that it's taken flight and you're pleased about that. Is this the first year that you've been doing this, or it's been ongoing, it just finally took this year?
It just finally took this year. I think initially when we first started talking about it, we were just trying to work out the systemic piece. How would it unfold? How could we get it to work? We also wanted to keep it we didn't want it to be a heavy lift for people for 2 reasons. We didn't want people who were being visited feeling like they were being evaluated in any way, because that in no way is the purpose of this. So in terms of data collection, we wanted to create meaningful documents that could be submitted to the BLT for us to be able to look at, that weren't going to take a tremendous amount of time to kind of capture the benefits, the pros and cons of the visit. Last year, we thought that we had the systems part worked out. I did kind of a test run going into a few classes, and it worked well. But I think by the time that we really reported out to the rest of the faculty on how they could go about this, we were approaching springtime where nobody really wants to give up that time, and you're looking at how much you have left to cover and not enough days to do it.
So procedure-wise, where did you free up time? Is it just during your planning periods, or did you have coverage and you could go see someone's class? Okay.
So when I did it, the classes that I wanted to go to were teaching at the same time, so I was afforded class coverage. I believe when Mike Morelli came to visit my class, I think it was during one of his free periods, I think he came. But it's kind of worked out.
How does it work out? Is there a yes or no involved in this?
So they just need to, yes, they just need to let the office staff know, so that coverage, just to make sure that all the classes have some time.
There's 12 subs in the building, it's a bad day to do this.
Right, yes.
That's the only time you're gonna.
Right.
All right, so our goal 2 is our culture goal, and we're focusing on how to communicate clear behavioral expectations to teachers, students, and parents. So what does this look like? So in the beginning of the year, I meet with, the English department is really great about letting me come in and take over one of their classes, and I do a code of conduct talk, and I don't talk about the entire code of conduct, but I take the pieces that are important to, and relatable to students. And we talk about expectations. I really try to relate them to not only school, but how that relates to in life. Like if you did this when you were older, you will get in a lot of trouble. It looks different at every grade level. I spend more time with freshmen than I do with our seniors. Our seniors is more of a laid back talk, like, hey, you guys know this. I'm going to touch upon a couple of these slides where, like I said, I spend a lot of time with freshmen and sophomores. This also looks like a lot of discussion and sharing out at faculty meetings around expected behaviors. So some of the stuff that we've done already this school year is, I was thinking, we spend these 2 great days during July diving into our building profiles. And our BLT spends almost the entire year focused on, information from those building profiles. So why don't I share that out with the whole faculty and staff, even though they have access to it? So I broke it down just into attendance, referrals, and course failures because they are all interrelatable. So I shared that out at a faculty meeting, and I felt like we had a really great discussion. There was a lot of great questions that were asked around that. Just even with our RTI meetings, our response to intervention, and that is just another support system that Melissa Macaluso heads. But that also helps with regards to behaviors. We create the SEL plans at those meetings. I did a mini presentation on referral writing, like what to include in referrals, what not to include, and we're going to focus on, when to write that referral. So what are some minor things, kind of like what the middle school has done with their behavior flow chart. What are some minor infractions that you should be handling within your classroom? What are the major ones that you should reach out to, whether it's a PPS member or myself as administration? We're going to share out the quarterly data, so just like at the end of the year, when we do get those building profiles and all 4 quarters are in there, we're going to share out at the end of each quarter. So I did ask Matt Berkshire for a little help with that, getting that information. We've partnered with the Character Ed PLC to kind of create one of those positive behavior mottos that Brian has: be kind, be you, be the best you can be. Right? Did I say that right, Brian? Be responsible. Okay. So we're gonna work with you. Well, I'm not. That's okay. But we're gonna partner with we partnered already with the Character Ed PLC, and Melissa Macaluso has been a good help with that as well too.
So just a reminder about what our skip class numbers look like before we talk about the measuring success. So in 22-23, we had 182 referrals for skipped classes. Last school year, there was a significant decrease with 134 at the end of the year. So our goal this year is 127, so we do roughly, is it 5% or 10% that worked out to be, do you recall? 5%, so that we're hoping that just like last year when we only needed 1 and 5% off of the 182, we're hoping for another big jump so that we see like roughly a big jump in the decrease in amount of referrals. And again, something else that we're doing with to measure success is look at our faculty, the perception survey, so to see what the faculty is saying and what students are saying with regards to expected behaviors.
Christy, could you give us a sense of, at the high school level, like what are some of the things that would be referred?
So at this point too, I think because there's been such a high turnover rate for the high school principal, there isn't really that consistency piece with regards to what is expected. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work on. Like Brian said, each of his teams worked on that. Like what are the things that like are that you're going to really focus on? Whether it's the chargers, what are those disruptive behaviors? That's something that we started talking about at a faculty meeting. Like what are the things that we have control over that we can change? So for example, why are we sending 2 kids out to the bathroom from the same class, right? Like that's no good. No matter what it is, whether it's just like I want to be with my friend or something else is occurring, right? Every kid that's in the hallway needs some kind of a pass. Because when I walk by a student in the hallway, I might say, hey, how's it going? Where are you going? And they're like, they don't have a pass, or sometimes they'll show me their pass right away. And it's like, well, where are you coming from? Why don't you have a pass? Mr. So-and-so said I could go. Or I'm like, oh, okay, let's get back up there. Not that, you guys probably won't believe this, but some of our students are not trustworthy. So I can't always believe those little statements that they're telling me. So we've kind of started that process. Teachers really wanted to talk about like cell phones, but I feel like that's grabbing the bull by the horns. What are the small things that we can do to start managing those little behaviors first? And then I don't know if it's December or January, we will start talking about the minor versus the major, so that at a faculty meeting, so that teachers are aware, like, here's what you should be kind of handling within your classroom. Here are some bigger things that might be a little bit too cumbersome for you to deal with. Contact PPS or have them come see me. Sure.
I have a question about your measuring device. The decrease in number of referrals, there's an implied piece of information in there that all infractions are referred. Some students and teachers may just be fatigued from writing referrals. But you're not getting them all. So if you count that as a decrease, you're not getting fair data.
True, but also too, a lot of things we're getting, so if a student was late to class once, teachers were writing that up. But I'm like, no. Like, talk to the student, figure out what's going on, right? Like, you can, or I get a lot of referrals that say, for documentation purposes only. So if you write that and you're trying to document that as a teacher, you're still making our referral numbers go up. So we've talked about other ways to, like, okay, you can document it on I know Brenda likes her notebook. Some people like Google Docs. There's different ways that you can document it. So I think while there might be some referral fatigue, I think a lot of teachers do try to handle things in their class, and I think they know if I'm going to support them with what they're doing in their classroom. I think that has changed a little bit as well too. I did ask Matt if we could figure out a way to, like, how can I know, just for my purposes, who's writing the most referrals? And then I'm going to look through those teachers' referrals and say, like, okay, is there something that I can help this teacher with? Or like, is it management? Is it the group of kids? Because I know that we have some really difficult cohorts that are out there. Is there some professional development, or is it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but when we looked at our overall discipline data from the building profiles, the number that jumped out the highest, I mean, there was no other referrals close to 182 referrals for skip classes. There were other things that were high, but nothing as high as that. So we're like, whoa, what is going on? Why are students skipping class? That also, like I know Brian says, his goal 1 links with goal 2. Our goal 1 for engagement can also link with goal 2 as well too. And so kind of like what Eric said, how are we going to know what fixes this problem? We don't, but we're going to put a lot of things in place.
Well, for consistency purposes, that the program that Brian has, not that you want to duplicate that because the rules are different.
Yeah.
No, the recording of the minor.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Are you thinking about something like that?
Well, we have to be careful of FERPA because we don't have specific teams, right? Like the closest thing that we have to a team is ninth grade. But even some of our ninth grade students that are accelerated, those typically aren't the kids that are getting the referrals anyways, but it would be hard to share and keep FERPA in mind when sharing that. Like I think the 10th grade team has started communicating amongst themselves with who are there for. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I think we can do that, but it's really hard to put Brenda has some 10th graders, Brenda has some 11th graders, Brenda has some 12th graders, but it would, and 9th. Okay, so yes, for some of the elective areas too. So it would be hard to put Brenda on every single document because if things are being documented with regards to discipline of students she doesn't have, yeah. So we haven't figured out a good way. So if you have any suggestions, Dave, we're open for those. Okay. Any other questions about goal 2?
I have something really quick.
Yeah.
Just about the whole thing with students skipping class and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have done this. Okay. I don't know if you guys have done this, but I think from I'm not trying to call people out, but I do know that from my experience, a lot of teachers allow kids to skip, and some of my classes will have random kids coming in from other classes, and they'll announce it to the teacher, and the teacher will send them back. So I think it's important to kind of touch base with the teachers and be hey, it's your responsibility. If you know a student's skipping a class and you know where they are, it's your responsibility to kind of be you're not allowed in here. Because I do know there's a lot of teachers that are kind of cool, friendly, you know what I mean? And they're kind of oh yeah, come and sit in here. And then I've had a class where there's been more than 3 students skipping from the exact same class in my class when they're not supposed to be there. So it's important that the teachers recognize it's their responsibility too, regardless of if it's their student skipping or not.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's perfect, Tina, because that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Making sure that only one student leaves the classroom to us too, that we did for lunch is if you're allowing a kid to come to your classroom for lunch, make sure they have a pass so we know that they're not just out there wandering. So I feel like what you just shared is another easy lift. Just sharing that, students should be coming to your classroom with a pass from the teacher, right? But they shouldn't be leaving one academic class to go to another academic class.
And I know another thing that I do notice is I think some teachers kind of feel they're not, they're so nice that I feel they think, oh, if a student's oh, I don't feel good or something, they can't say no to that, but they don't know for sure that they're going to the nurse, but they kind of feel they have to let them go regardless of if there's someone in the bathroom already. So I think that's why there's so many students leaving the same class and coming to my class. So I just think it's important that teachers build that confidence, but I also think it's important from the other teacher's perspective that if a student's coming into their class from a different class and they know that, to send them back and stuff.
Yeah, and go both ways. Thank you.
Christy, can you just clarify, when you're talking about skipped classes, you're not talking about someone who's been excused from music lessons, somebody who's come in late, this is specifically they are already checked in for the day and for no reason they just weren't in a class?
Correct, they attended periods 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe they don't like 4th period math, they choose not to go to 4th period math, and then they go to their other classes for the rest of the day, absolutely, yes. All right. So Brenda and I will talk about goal 3, the culture, together, or communication, communication. Would you like to start? Okay. Oh, when you want some talking time, right? Yeah. So our strategy at the high school is to implement and simplify consistent and effective internal and external communication. So some of the things that we have done at the high school so far is we kind of have a who do I contact. It's not a sheet, but who do I contact? So we've helped out, or we've worked with Sierra, so this is in the front of the printed calendar. Now, yes, there's stuff in there for Ellis and for middle school, but there's also stuff in there for high school. On the e-news, on the first page, there's also the same list that's in the printed calendars, but also in the Spartan spotlight at the end. The second time would have been a bit hello. On the end of the high school pages, there is a page called Contact and Quick Links. So it has like a lot of our guidance links there. It has a lot of our like directed who to contact with their names, instead of just saying like attendance 405 or the extension. It gives like a email address and the person's name as well. We just started, this was not part of our plan, but it is a way that we are communicating. We've done a guidance newsletter that was Sierra's bringing this to our attention because she saw another school district do it. So twice a year this year, we'll do a guidance newsletter. So one just came out in the fall, just last week or the week before. We'll do another one in the spring. And it's geared towards, when course selections are coming out. There's going to be a lot of information in there for juniors and seniors. There's also information in there with regards to sophomores on when they can apply to CTE programs, things of that nature. I know Matt touched on this already. We had a reading for busy writers PD, and there was templates that were shared so that if teachers didn't know where to start with regarding writing an email home or writing, I don't think anyone sends old school letters, but in case they wanted to, they could use those templates. But then we also had the PD today on how to contact home and things that you can start off saying when you're calling a parent. I've been really more intentional about sharing things, sharing information, the e-news and the Spartan Spotlight. We just had an email from Sierra today, letting us know that she's working on the December newsletter, and I was like, okay, I wrote her a letter, can we talk this week? I got a couple things to share to put in there. Something that I missed this quarter, but now I've put it in my calendar so I won't. We were going to put like an info page in when all the report cards go home, like, hey, here's what's coming up, the important dates coming up, so that parents are getting that printed copy rather than trying to look at the website or the internet all the time. So I missed that, so that's my bad, but like I said, it's in my calendar. The BLT asked if I could, I sent out a weekly principals bulletin. I tried to make it as short and sweet as possible. There's some resources on the bottom. There's important dates, things to remember, some trainings that we've had, and it was all like one big. It was a long document, but not so I have new news at the top, then I have some old but important news. The BLT asked if I could just separate that so they know what is important. I really try not to send out emails to teachers throughout the week. If I send an email out, it's usually to Brenda or to the to the BLT, to a specific group. I really try not to email the entire faculty because everything I need to say that needs to go out to the entire faculty will be found in the principal's bulletin that I get out either Friday or usually over the weekend. After I sent that out for the first couple of weeks too, I asked for feedback from the BLT and they gave me the thumbs up that it was looking okay. And then one of the other things that we're going to start doing at our faculty meetings is just do a committee share out. We have a lot of committees throughout the district, and sometimes we don't always get to share out what's going on with each committee. So if I could give up 10, 15 minutes, even 5 minutes at faculty meetings for committees to share out, that's the plan moving forward. Want to go to the measuring success part now?
You were doing such a great job communicating, I was going to let you keep going. In terms of measuring for success, we're looking at both the parent as well as faculty perception survey results. And then also, we're not wrestling up. Yeah, no, we're not wrestling. But then also just requesting feedback from the different stakeholders to find out what's working, what are different things that we could try to implement in order to better communicate or disseminate that information so that everybody's on the same page. My eyes are bad. And the last one there, the implementation of the templates, as Christy had said, Sierra has shared out some different templates on our Google Drive. So if people are having trouble crafting something and they are not well versed on using the great world of AI tools that can do just about everything for you, then those templates are right there. So you could use those as a model to craft an email to send home or for a conversation starter with parents.
Are students allowed to use AI? I'm curious. Sorry, what you mentioned, I couldn't resist.
So yes, but not for, like, they can't put in, write an essay about, I don't know, like biology, or whatever the topic is. So they're not allowed to do
Benjamin
that.
Franklin, 500 words, please provide
Yes,
it with
correct.
a tone of an emotional.
Yes, but, so, for example, I know Mr. Carl encourages students, once they write something, to put it in AI and say, provide some feedback, or edit this piece of, the following. I know teachers are using that. I mean, Tatum could probably even talk, I know about AI a little bit. Miss Faye, our English teacher, 12th grade English teacher, does a lot of talk on AI as well, too. And even for IB, at the bottom of IB, like they say something along the line, something about using AI, and IB would say, well, your work is better. So while they encourage you to use it correctly, they do want you to know that your own individual work is better. So yes, we are teaching students the appropriate way to use it. Like I will share with them, like if I, sometimes I'll put in some ideas for a graduation speech, or we just had an honor society speech. But sometimes I was using it to write letters of recommendation for some of our seniors. So if Tatum shared her brag sheet with me, which is all seniors complete that, about all the great things that they've accomplished and were part of, I wouldn't use Tatum's name, but I would put all the great things that Tatum did, and I'll say write a letter, a college, or write a recommendation for a high school senior entering into college, and then I provide all those specifics. I also go back and change it, because some of those words that they use are not words that I would use ever. So I think teachers are encouraging students to do that as well too, but making sure that you claim that you used AI, because newspaper reporters are using it, and I mean, you'll see it, it'll say like generated with AI.
That's wonderful. I mean, the analogy that I make, and I don't want to digress, is that I don't walk to Albany, I drive. Yeah.
Christy, and Brandon, thank you for the presentation. When you had that training this afternoon, you said on teachers communicating with home. I think there's a natural hesitancy on teachers to communicate at home. Because at the high school, it's a little bit difficult. In the elementary, Susie did a wonderful job fingerprinting. Everybody wants to hear that. In middle school, it gets a little bit rougher. In high school, you just get click. They don't answer. So I was wondering if there was any, I hope that there was, part of the program was to provide an opportunity to communicate with positive messages at home.
Yeah, always.
Because you purposefully, because normally, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the communication at home at the high school level is generally not because they did a great thing. But I think if you can encourage, especially the people that are hesitant to contact home, just pick your roughest student and say something nice, like you brought up this week.
He was breathing well.
Right, not that silly, but I think that really helps. It gets the parents used to. I did that, and I had people like shocked, like that's why you called, really. And it makes it easier on the teacher to do it. So if that was a part of the program, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll ask for some feedback as well too, but it was all of our teachers when there was a K-12 after school side. Another thing that I offer too, I always tell teachers, like if we can call together. And then that way, like we can put a parent speaker, and I'll say like, hey, I'm here with the chemistry teacher, Mrs. Schultz says, we just wanted to provide you some feedback. And it doesn't always have to be a scary thing when a teacher calls home.
Although I will agree with Dave, because from a parent perspective, when the GCS trunk line number shows up, your inclination is hello. So positive self-help could make a big difference.
Well, I think we also have in our toolbox too the good notes home. And I think those postcards, I use them a lot for the positive, and I don't send out a lot, because I think, to be here, you should be a good human. So I'm not going to send a good note home because you were being a good human. But I send them home for the students who go above and beyond, who do things that you didn't ask them to do, and who were extraordinary that day. And it could be the roughest of the roughest, or it could be the cream of the crop. But those are nice because it's amazing to see how many of the kids carry those around with them. And will show them off to different people. So I agree with you, I think it is very important.
So what Brenda was referencing, we have Good Notes Home, and it just has the Greenville emblem on it. And so teachers can hand them out to students after they write them, or they can mail them home. And sometimes I think it's really important that students get the mail at home, because of course then the parent sees it first. So it's like, what's this? And usually students will come in the next day and like, you sent a letter home, you know, and they're a little embarrassed by it, but they really appreciate it, obviously, if they're saying something.
Interject for a moment. Well, just to speak to specifically, Dave, your idea there, the positive, the power of that. One of the first points of the session today was all conversations when you call home, even if it's for a rough reason, you got to start positive, right? And your conversation should be kind of sandwiched. Positive, get down to business, and then end with the positive, right? So that was one of the main points. And I mean, that conversation and communication at home is one of your ways to build relationships. Be careful not to break them down as you do that.
Any final questions?
I just want to add, I feel like those, like, the comments that go at home, even if it's for, like, something that's, like, I agree, like, if it's for something that's not even, like, the most outstanding, like, going above and beyond, but for each, like, student, I think that each student has, like, a different level of, like, above and beyond. And if a student just came with, like, a smile into class one day, that's something worth even like, writing on a report card. Because I feel like not only does that make the parent happy, but I feel like the student then, like, is like, oh, my teacher, like, actually, like, recognizes, like, the small things, and, like, everyone's life is different. And kind of, like, if you put that on a report card specifically, like, the comments and stuff like that, I feel like that encourages them to want to make the report card look even better, because they're like, wow, like, I can do this, even if it's, like, the small things and stuff. So then, like, they might start aiming towards, like, grades and stuff like that, and that's just, like, very beneficial, I think, for, like, the, like, rougher students.
They can nail it down.
I have one thing I want to mention, obviously it carries over from earlier as well as the recognition. Sometimes I want to say thank you for your presentation. Also, for the culture and the well-being, it kind of carries over. You know, I've noticed our building leadership teams and, you know, our superintendents show up for extracurricular events. Specifically, you know, our student athletes and everything else. It's great, parents have to be there. However, when you say, oh, you did a great job, you know, when your child says, thanks for being here, but it's a rock star for somebody, you know, oh, thanks for being there, Dad, but did you see the principal was there, or did you see somebody else was there, even though it's an hour away, they're showing up. I think it ties into that you're connected to them, that they feel that you're involved in their success. I also feel that it helps on our numbers that with our student athletes, you know, with the academic, how many athletes do well. So I do want to commend, sometimes you don't get feedback on that, but it's nice that I see it's not required on the job, but it's definitely a culture here in Greenville, and sometimes I don't see it in other districts. So I just want to say thanks.
It's easy to go out during those games when it's nice and sunny, but when there was 4 administrators at that one game where it was pouring rain, that's dedication right there. Thanks, Steve. Or Jim, sorry. All right, we're ready?
Good evening. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here to tell you all about what's going on at Ellis. I am going to turn it directly over to our presenters this evening. We have Denise Mulholland and Christine Carey, 2 members of our BLT, to tell you all about the exciting things that are happening down at Ellis, and I will be happy to answer any other questions should the need arise.
All right, so thank you for having us tonight. Our first goal, Matt kind of did all my work for me. Berkshire, thank you, was bookworms and the implementation, the soft rollout of it. Really what I think is most exciting for teachers at Ellis regarding this is we have to really give a big shout out to Matt to actually do a soft rollout. In 20 plus years that I've been here, I don't think we've ever actually taken this much time and effort into implementing a new program. It's very often been, here's your new program, let's kind of get the ball rolling pretty quickly. Where this program has been laid out so perfectly to not overwhelm us as classroom teachers and reading interventionists, and I just cannot thank you enough for that, the feedback from everyone. That's a big relief for us in the classroom to make sure that we can kind of slowly take in the information and then actually go visit a classroom within the building to see how it's working, which is what the DI lab classrooms have been. We've had the opportunity to do that. As he said, our coaches are also offering a class that 25 plus, I think, TAs, interventionists, and classroom teachers at every grade level have signed up for to really dig deep into this first block of this program. So between Matt and Laura Palvino and Michelle Neary, our ELA coaches, and then obviously Matt Urban for coming into all of this and just supporting it as well has been, a great way to start with this program and ensure the success of it. We also have trainers from bookworms, like as Matt said, so I don't really want to repeat everything over, we've already kind of heard it, but just so that you know the teachers in the building are really excited and looking forward to this, to something that is very overwhelming, but it has been presented in a way to us to make it more exciting. We're excited to get started in it. We're excited to try it out. Some classes, even though they're not lab classes, have started to try and implement parts of the DI block. And just to be comfortable enough to do that and have people to go to, has really, it's been a good morale booster, I just want to say, overall in the building. Also this year, because of this goal, our coaches are alternating their attendance to our BLT meetings. So Laura or Michelle, and actually Audrey Mizaraka as well as our math coach, they are alternating so that someone is always in attendance at BLT, which is new this year, and I think it's been really helpful for us to kind of just go back to our plan and see, what do we might need from them to help get things rolling in the classroom. So I don't really think I need to say too much more on the bookworms between everything. I don't know.
Denise, what do you think is like one of the key factors with the sense of overwhelm?
Well, I think that any new program, for classroom teachers, I mean, in an elementary classroom, management is a big part. Any classroom, I can't really speak for middle school, high school, but, we're responsible for everything. So we have, reading, writing, math, science, social studies, and things go in waves. Like for a while, everything was very separated, and now, we're trying to include our ELA programs where they include some more science and social studies because we've seen, students struggle with vocabulary. Okay, so how can we help that? Well, it tends to be vocabulary in those areas of science and social studies, background knowledge. So maybe the idea of keeping that separate wasn't so good. So now we're in this new wave. It's just kind of how it goes. So I think when you're handed a new program, you instantly are, okay, am I going to have enough time to really understand what it's asking me to do? And this, we have been given that time.
Tracy, I'd like to make one point that I think will illustrate the thoughtfulness of this kind of slow rollout. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was a phonics program that existed and was effective prior to this bookworms rollout. The idea is, let's not scrap that and try something else new. Let's look at what's working. Let's keep that piece, and let's add the bookworms piece. And so, in a sense, what we've ended up with is kind of a very Ellis-specific set of tools that the teachers can use. They're already familiar with the phonics, which is really great reading. And that was working well, so they didn't want to stop that and start something totally new. So enter bookworms, and now we're looking at kind of a hybrid approach of this phonics that was working well, in addition to this very thoughtful, intentional rollout of this new program, which will address some of the other fluency and comprehension needs of our students. And so that sense of teachers feeling overwhelmed, I think, is significantly lessened based on the fact that the teachers are hearing Matt and others say, we acknowledge that this is working, we're not going to change that. We value what you're doing, keep doing that well. Here's a couple of other frameworks that are going to help you, or, as these readers continue to develop.
Another quick question. If you guys are doing this little rollout, you're using measuring success of like iReady growth and stuff, are you expecting this to be a multi-year goal? Because you're not going to see that if the teachers are not yet using it.
So, one of the principles of school improvement that I really subscribe to is that these things take time, right? And when we were looking at measuring success and for this goal for this year, one of the thoughts we had is, well, looking at our plan, we're going to be looking at putting this differentiated instruction block in place this school year, right, in the model of that. So along those lines, that's work with our really great reading. So those iReady metrics that we're looking at that are in the plan are really phonics specific and those like foundational skills specific. Those are the kind of things that are really being focused on in that instructional piece. And we're looking to have that up and running. As Denise mentioned, teachers are, after seeing the lab classrooms, people are saying, yeah, I can do that. Like, let's start that. Let's do that now. So that's moving. Right, as the other pieces, as we're learning about them, those people are picking up momentum on those things now that should have a continued impact on those results, those phonics results from already.
So this isn't our usual 3 to 5 years out. We should see something sooner.
We should, with those data points that we highlighted in the plan, we should, we're seriously monitoring those this year, and then those vocabulary comprehension. Oral reading fluency, and actually oral reading fluency is something that the coaches monitor it in the lab classroom that they did this year, or that they did during the fall already. We've seen some really amazing jumps in numbers for correct words per minute for third graders that were reading at or below grade level coming into this. Great. So really promising stuff we're seeing.
The second part of our curriculum goal has to do with executive functioning. So when middle school was talking, I was thinking that, this is something that Alice has talked about kind of for a few years, mostly with our SLPs, when you work with students that go to see our speech and language pathologists, a lot of times executive functioning skills would come up. It then gradually became something that we felt a lot of students really needed more detailed instruction on. What does executive functioning even mean? It's such a vast topic. So what do we want to focus on? So this was a conversation that when Matt came in this summer that we had a few times and talked about let's start the year off by just surveying our staff to see, what is your comfort level in the understanding of executive functioning? What are some needs that you feel you see in your grade level? Because what a first grade teacher is going to say will differ tremendously from what I would say at fourth grade, or from what, Christine might see in a, special ed setting. So that was kind of where we started this year. Teachers stopped a survey, a faculty meeting, currently kind of looking at the results of that, and then with the help of our SLPs are hoping to, come up with some sort of monthly tip sheet that can be kind of inserted into the newsletters for parents as well. Faith Smith has kind of even last year would send out monthly tips to teachers. Here's an executive functioning skill. This is how you could help in the classroom. So as not to make it sound like it's something in addition that we're doing in the classroom, but how can you work it into just your everyday routines? and coming up with some of that common language so that it's used across different areas of school, and making sure that we're including cafeteria staff and, custodians, bus drivers, anyone that comes into contact with our students, so that everyone's using that same kind of common language, For example, like read the room. A student should understand, like, what does it mean to read the room? So you've left for band, you come back in, when you read the room, oh look, everyone's sitting over there on the rug and they have their science folders. I'm gonna go to my desk. So it's a lot of modeling at first, but the hope that you take the time to do that, you save the time on the other end, and it's a life skill. So I think this is something that we could probably have worked on for years, but hopefully it helps Brian and Christy and middle school, high school, because it is something that we're seeing. And to help parents really understand what they need to do at home to help foster their own child's executive functioning, because you can be doing too much and it's not really very helpful for your kid to do it all for them.
And I'm sure parents would, the majority of parents would really welcome it, because like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no manual for kids, so please tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. So we're hoping to see through report cards in our learning behavior section, an increase in scores that show students taking initiative and responsibility, and it's kind of the way we're looking to measure that a little bit.
I have a question. I'm just curious. So can you talk a little more, give some examples, say executive functioning was taught at first grade versus going up through fifth grade? Like, how does that change as the kids get older? And the second part is, understand there's a lot there, like you said, and I think you all said you're just, the first year that there's a focus on this. But how, from your perspective, from the teacher's perspective, will the focus on executive functioning change like next year, maybe grow and develop next year and the following year?
I think early on it starts with the organization, being able to, as a kindergarten, first grade, maintain your supplies, right? So being able to come in, it would be as small as that, like coming to the seat, unpacking, right? Even ourselves, I need help. Right? That's something that K-5 kids need to advocate for themselves, and that's a big thing that I work with, rather than sitting there waiting for someone to come over and see that you're helpless, right? It's asking questions. How do I ask questions? It's reading the room. It's problem solving, and that could be social or academic or emotional. So there's a wide variety there. It's really all basic life skills, but then I think each teacher is also going to have to determine what they need in their classroom to function and run as a classroom community. And that's where we can help. I took a couple courses on it. Would love to help at some point as we get going and provide strategies that way. We brought it up at our open house as one of our big bullets to just our classroom, and all the parents were like, yeah, like help. And it was like you could just see the, oh yeah, right. And we brought it up as homework is for the students. It's not for you to help at, and fill out in your handwriting. We want that to come back, leave it. So because it sort of lets us know we didn't do our job, right? If your child did not understand the homework, then that means we didn't do something successfully. So we need that feedback ourselves. So we brought up, your child should be able to pack their snack. Maybe not their lunch, but they should be able to go into a cupboard. So if you have a basket of snacks that are appropriate, or snacks in the refrigerator, talk to your child about, okay, at night you're going to fill your water bottle up, and you're going to, so it's, there is a gamut of things, skills and strategies that we could help our parents that in the end come and help us. The same thing. So,
and we also talked about how a lot of times take a picture of how you want your child's whatever laundry basket to look like, or how you want their lunchbox,
you know, after school, what should that look like? Go get ready for bed. Because
that
that general statement to some kids, that what does go get ready mean? You know, like, you literally may have to say and show, okay, it means first you're going to walk up the stairs, you're going to turn right and go into the bath. Like, sometimes some kids need that specific of set of directions or photos to go with it. And it sounds crazy, but it works. As adults, we just sometimes just assume so much, and that they understand all the verbal. And really, that's hard to articulate, you know, especially when it's multi-step. And they have to keep all that in their head. They probably remember only the last thing you said, right? And it's a good job skill later on, right? I mean, so, yeah.
Jay, one of the outcomes of our survey was to pinpoint specific executive functioning skills, because it's such a broad spectrum of skills. In a sense, I think it becomes a catch-all for when kids can't do something right the first time, it must be executive functioning. But it's a very broad swath of skills. So one of the things that we were trying to accomplish was to balance the skills our students are lacking with the confidence our teachers have in addressing those skills. So I'll give you an example. So 74% of our teachers identified organization as an area of need. That's 3/4. However, 90% felt confident that they could teach that skill, which is great. So that's, to me, that says we have kids that are struggling with this, but we also have teachers that feel equipped to help them with strategies. Contrast that with something like self-regulation. Teachers said that 80% of our students need help with self-regulation. 80%, that's 4 out of 5. Only 12% of our teachers feel confident to be able to teach that skill. So that's really important data, because now we know we're not going to take the time to talk about organization. We need to address this issue of self-regulation, and we see it, you know, K through 2. It's keeping your hands to yourselves. It's respecting other people's personal space and belongings, those kind of things. So another example is working memory. 66% of the students at Ellis struggle with working memory. Only 23% of our teachers feel equipped to address that need. So this is really helpful feedback for us. Now we have an idea of here's where we want to go. So that's kind of where we are right now. The good news is we have multiple in-house experts that have background and skills and are going to be able to assist us with that. The one major other outcome of the survey was the idea that it does look different from primary when compared to upper elementary grade. So K1-2, the skills of our K1-2 kids are extremely different than those in 3, 4, 5. And so going forward, that's probably going to be one of the things that we have to address. Is it probably doesn't make sense for us to meet as a whole school to discuss this. There may be some overarching skills, but let's be efficient with our time and energy, and let's break down into groups here where the skills are most needed. Let's do it.
Oh, sorry. Good. So goal 2 is based around culture, and I believe across all 3 buildings, we all have the same beliefs, same goals, is that our families, our students, our teachers all feel safe, secure, supported, and engaged when they're in school. Matt's done a great job coming in as new principal and trying to boost morale for all teachers and students. We have just little things before we get into our major goals, like Woohoo Wednesdays he's incorporated. He gets on the announcements and woohoos some kids and lets them come down. And then once a month on Thursdays he has everyday hero. We incorporated field day into the beginning of the year to try and boost morale. We incorporated teachers inflatable race, just trying wherever we can to bring that sense of fun, supportive, encouraging environment. But kudos to
that was
Matt.
one of the best things I've ever seen, by the way. It was excellent. I should do that all the time.
It was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. But one focus strategy that we believe in that strengthens students' sense of belonging is our responsive classroom, and I know we worked on this last year as well, but we see it as a continued asset to our building. It's student-centered, social emotional learning approach to teaching and discipline. It focuses on strengthening our students' sense of belonging by building relationships. And I think we can all say that the first 6 weeks, that should be a teacher's goal, right? One of my favorite questions I was ever asked in an interview is, how do you handle classroom discipline? And to me, my favorite answer is, well, it's classroom climate. So if you can build classroom climate, you don't have discipline. You want those kids to feel like you're their safe person, you're their trusted person, but yet you are going to hold me accountable, but the next day is a fresh start. And I believe that the first 6 weeks, that's our goal, is to accomplish that. Responsive classroom is research-based, evidence-based practices that are designed to create the safe and joyful and engaging classroom for both students and teachers. At the heart of a responsive classroom is the core belief that in order to be successful in and out of school, which is important, students need to learn a set of social and emotional competencies, such as cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, self-control, and then there's academic competencies as well, such as mindset, growth mindset, which we work on, perseverance, haven't learned it yet, learning strategies, and academic behaviors. Responsive classroom creates these conditions for social, emotional, and academic success by using practical strategies in 4 domains. So the 4 domains are positive community, effective management, engaging academics, and developmentally responsive teaching. So looking at our action steps and our plan, we felt that it's important to begin the year with a focus on the domain 1, which is building positive classroom community, through a focus of implementing consistent morning meeting, or some teachers call it classroom meeting. And we were looking for, our goal is every teacher doing it every day 4 to 5 days a week. That's our goal. So we felt that providing professional development, we do have a lot of new staff in our building. So we have our teachers who we felt could use a refresher, but then those new teachers that we have could use a whole background of it. So we began implementing, so that we could implement it right away, immediately, first day. So we did a quick overview of morning meeting is that it's very structured part of the day, where you come together as a group, led by the teacher, but you get to the point where the students are leading the morning meeting as well. And it's four components, 4 components. Reading, sharing, you share out, a group activity, and a message. These daily routines provide a sense of belonging and self-esteem, and then it leads to engagement throughout the rest of the day. A lot of skills that are practiced are empathy, active listening, positively contributing to a conversation and discussions, problem solving. So again, it goes all back to executive functioning. And basically the meeting just sets the tone for a day. During our initial phase, one of our retirees, Bill Kiefer, who's very comfortable, provides much knowledge and experience with responsive classroom, and he's attended many professional developments on the topic, presented at our September faculty meeting with an overview of that first domain. So we're not trying to overcrowd and throw out a lot of stuff to the new teachers, but we felt that that was the important. So we talked about the first 6 weeks of school, some games you can play, or icebreakers as you want to call it, and different ways to build classroom community, but focusing on morning meeting. And then during the November superintendent's conference, Bill presented training with our aides, providing the components of it and language. Our next phase will be diving into the interactive model, which is also highly structured and quick-paced. And basically, you are providing every routine or skill that you have within your classroom. You are making that a teachable, modeled moment for your students. So, for kindergarten, it could be looking, how do we use a marker? How do we put the cap back on, right? So first you give them time to explore the manipulatives of Unifix Q, but for like 5 minutes. Get it out of your system. But then, how do we appropriately use whiteboards in 4th grade still? Like, it comes down to, you teach those in those first 6 weeks the expectations of how to make the class run smoothly, efficiently, and fast-paced, really, so that we can get to the learning and the fun stuff. And then our second strategy that we have implemented to help foster a sense of community and belonging is our mentor program. So we currently have 2 retired teachers, Sue Konis and Bill Kiefer, who have graciously volunteered to meet with students once a week, lovely, during the school day. They meet in the library, and the overall goal is to increase attendance and decrease referrals for those chosen students. And Sue and Bill work to build a connection with the students through conversation, games, activities, of course, getting to know the students that they're working, you know, what makes them tick, what are they motivated by, and then, of course, that promotes the next couple visits together. And students who benefit from this model are picked up through our Aperture program, which Denise, as a classroom teacher, could probably give you a bit more about the Aperture.
So our PPS, Melissa, jump in if you need to, brought this to us last year. I think was our first year that we used it. And it's a quick survey that we do on each student. I think initial is about 5 questions. A lot of them SEL related, social emotional kinds of questions. And then if students fall within a range that they want more information, then we are prompted to answer an additional 45 questions roughly on that student. And then again, then it will put them in a range. So any student that falls within that red kind of zone then puts the teacher on notice, okay, this is a student, which for the most part we probably already know, but this is the data that kind of, supports that. And then I think those students were brought to the attention of possibly being put into a mentor program, and then based on having enough volunteers, which I think the idea was let's start small, see how it works, and see how, if logistically getting someone into the building, and then what time does that work for the student, does it work for the mentor? But that's how the students were chosen, through the use of the Aperture.
So quantitatively, we look at the student survey data, basically on the question, I belong, and what was the percentage of that. And also the teacher survey quarterly to track the quantitative meetings, looking again back to doing at least 4 times a week. And that might just be like a quick Google Doc or something we do at one of our faculty meetings. How are you feeling about responsive classroom, implementation, positive comments, negative, any feedback that way. And then the mentoring program, student attendance increases and referral decreases. We also distributed a brochure out for open house that comes from the responsive classroom site, talking about all different things and basically the developments of age levels. So we go back to that kind of focus of what fits who at the appropriate developmental time. And then looking to monitor our mentor program consistently with the volunteers, the students, how they felt.
Any questions on this? So that leads us into our final goal, having to do with the community. I think that for us at Ellis, we feel pretty good that we've seen some positive growth on our parent survey specifically over the last 2 years. In regards to communication, at times it was not always such a positive feedback, which is why it has become a goal of ours over the last couple of years. We have to put kudos to where it belongs to Sierra as well, who has really streamlined the communication for the district, which overall has helped, I think, the perception of parents as well. not just because it's something that we've done at Ellis, but in addition to her help, we continue to implement our bi-weekly teacher newsletters, as well as a principal newsletter that goes out. We decided early in the year that they would be alternating so that parents weren't getting overwhelmed with emails all over the place from us alone, and then on top of it, middle school, high school sending stuff out. So teachers knew they'd remember on payday Friday, so that's what we do it. And then executive functioning works and does all the opposite ones. And with the help of Sierra, again, with communication, they are very quick, one-page, bulleted kind of information that makes important dates coming up. You know, something to remember, like now, hats and gloves should be in backpacks, weather's getting colder, quick little things. And then very brief summaries of some academic things that, you know, we've accomplished. And we've tried to keep it with what's been accomplished versus instead of what's coming up in the newsletter. You know, and Sierra's been really helpful just to make us aware of, you know, what is kind of user-friendly, parent-friendly, language-friendly, concise and to the point. Sometimes we can just keep going too much and think that we're being helpful and we're really not. So, you know, with that, using the perception survey has been really kind of our main way to monitor how that is going. Matt also has, which has been really helpful, implemented a weekly bulletin for faculty that he pushes out to us on Sundays usually. To email to faculty that kind of, for me, I know helps me kind of, I usually don't look until Sunday night, honestly, but just know what the week is coming ahead. Oh yeah, remember that's, you know, it's picture day, book fair is coming up after Thanksgiving, those kinds of things. So that's been really helpful. You know, our newsletters get pushed out through Seesaw, which Sierra was at open houses to try to get parents, if they have not already been connected. I don't actually have our percentage, but it's very high. You know, in my classroom, I have all my students connected, their family members connected. And that's been really, really helpful. An easy platform to use, I think. And the feedback's been good with that.
Yeah, because we can post pictures, positive things that are going on. It's great.
We show projects to put it up quick, so we really enjoy that. Kind of our goal. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for listening tonight, and we know it's a lot of information. Thank you for all your questions. I want to thank the admin who presented tonight, but also the admin who support this work who did not present tonight. They are all on our team. The BLT members who presented tonight, Brenda, Denise, Ms. Carey, and Jim Hutchins. But there's other other BLT members that are also behind this work who aren't here tonight. You know, Karen Overbaugh sitting silently back there, she's an LSBLT member. But I also want to thank the teachers and recognize them who all along through all of this are positive and who are on board and open to new ideas and open to improvement. And that's what it takes for an organization to move forward. And we've got so many people here working hard, you know, in addition to TAs and aides and folks in transportation and in all the offices. A lot of people here show what it means to be Spartan strong. And we should all be very proud. I know I'm really proud to work here. We're doing some amazing things. So, thank you.
I just want to say thank you. It's obvious just how much information goes into this, but at the same time, I think you were able to synthesize it and present it in such a way that still keeps it, you know, appropriate for the board, while providing the feedback and kind of the honesty of this is what our situation is and how we're improving and everything else. So thank you to everyone.
And I just, excuse me, I just want to add, as far as thank yous go, that for me anyways, and this is me, it may not be the board, but it's me, I enjoy listening and learning, so if you guys are engaging me and I'm asking questions, that means that I'm enjoying it and I want to know more, and I'm trying to understand and learn, because you guys are professionals and we're here trying to become better at what we're supposed to. So thank you.
And before you guys take off, I just would like to say, for the board, this is what makes Greenville great. We got 2 presentations today to talk about not only athletic success, but the success of our athletic teams in the classroom, and then to be followed up by these 3 reports to see how we are taking the information, the data, and what we've learned and gleaned from perception surveys, from academic surveys, all those types of things, and to watch it work together in unison across the 3 buildings to get to the district level. I'm really proud to be part of this group, and just so proud of the work that's being done in each building. Just amazing stuff, and you got to know that this is not happening in other school districts. So again, thank you everyone for your contributions. It's noted and appreciated.
I could just kind of steal from later. One of the things that we're going to talk about is the State School Board Convention, and Matt and Todd did a presentation on goal setting and kind of talked through those summer workshops and how our district builds their goals. And I cannot tell you how many people in that room were stunned and kept asking and asking questions. Does this actually work? Do you actually have buy-in? Is there communication? It was really impressive. So you guys have done an amazing job, and it was recognized as being very unique.
Well, thank you. Have a good night.
Like magic. All right, I'm going to move us on to discussion, and we have several points. We're first I'm going to turn it over to Mike Bennett, and he will give us an update on the capital project.
Yes, as we move into the school year, the capital project updates get a little less glamorous as they were in the summer, and as we were going through classrooms at Ellis and really moving. It's now dark outside, but the work being done in the art rooms, as well as the PE gym spaces down at Ellis, has really been quite amazing. We have just a couple of updates. We've got our middle school art class taking place in the new room, which is very exciting. We're happy to see that. There are some things that need to be finalized and touched up, and some cabinets coming in December, but we've got kids back in there, which is exciting. Ellis, is, like I said, the gym is up. It is about to be bricked. We're excited about some of the work that's taking place there. Music rooms are really coming into focus. I know that the music department got a tour of what that looks like, so we're really excited about that. We had our architect, our schoolhouse management construction company come in and report out to our district facilities team, just to kind of give an update on where we're at. And all in all, we're doing good stuff, and we're feeling pretty good about the direction we're going in as we start to look at December break, February break, April break, and then getting into the final push with a lot of classrooms being touched, hands-on, come spring and summertime. So we're moving along nicely.
All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Angela, who had, again, agreed to be our representative for the NISBA adopted resolutions. So Angela, if you could just give us an update or an overview on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of give a brief explanation of what it is. Maybe people don't know. So NISBA is the New York State School Board Association, and they basically lobby and advocate for the school boards of New York State. So in this meeting they have annually, there were, I think, 350 delegates there. So it's basically like a gigantic online board meeting. There were a bunch of resolutions proposed, and we all had to vote on them. What happens is the majority vote, then it passes, and then that So basically, that resolution will be advocated for 5 years before it sunsets, and then we have to either renew it or it just kind of goes away. So all of them can be found online on the NISBA website. There, you just search for the adopted positions for 2024, and you can look them up. You can also, as a school board, we could present some in the future if we had anything that we wanted to. And they go from everything from getting building permits approved to the hybrid bus thing and just everything that affects the school district. So it is definitely a powerful tool, and I'm kind of glad that I fell into this position, and it's actually quite interesting. And again, kudos to Matt Berkshire for actually helping me understand what some of the more heavy curriculum items were on there. And again, in the future, if I am still in this position or whoever else is in this position, I really recommend reaching out for help and more clarification on understanding what it is we're voting on.
And Angela, what's the time frame? So once it's voted and approved, then that NISBA then keeps those resolutions?
5 years.
So really, it's a path forward, shall we say, on this is the direction that's being set by the organization for the next 5 years.
Yeah, so one of the hot issues obviously is the EV buses and like that. So it's like a board meeting where they propose it and then there's discussion and it gets quite heated, and that seems to be one that everybody agrees on. So it was nice that everybody really agrees that this mandate is a little bit difficult. So I forget where I was going with that, but yeah.
No, I can see where it's important, because then basically it is NISBA then lobbying legislators as well as the governor and any appropriate parties to say, okay, these are some of the things that are coming down for schools, but understand these are some of the issues that schools are facing. So it really, they verbalize, shall we say, some of the issues that individual schools are faced with. Thank you. So we appreciate the time, because we know it has been a significant time commitment.
That one was not as bad as last year.
Next, I'd like to move us on to the NISBA annual convention, and we have 3 of us down because there were several of us that had attended the actual convention. There were 3 topics that I have that I thought might be of interest. So first, overall, kind of overarching, there was a theme for the convention, and it was artificial intelligence. So it was definitely up my alley, and I was like, oh, I want to go to these workshops and everything else. But I think what was really eye-opening is that to show board members as well as key administrators that these are some of the things that are coming down. This is the potential. As fast as we are seeing things, it is changing. And when we are looking at an educational environment, the question comes, how do we write policies for things that are continuously changing if we don't understand it? So one of the things, there were multiple discussions and topics and everything else on it that I found absolutely fascinating. I would encourage everyone to Google the robot Sophia, because I think it was also written up on board, but this was a completely functional walking robot that the director of NISBA had a conversation with. And this was not with questions in advance, this was off the cuff with the robot answering it. And so to see where it is right now and then to project forward, okay, well, I'd say 10 years, we're gonna have, all of us are gonna have these in our houses. You know, it's Alexa or Siri, but walking. So Rosie from the Jetsons is not far away. But more importantly, what are some of the ramifications for us? And if we don't understand the technology, then how do we provide guidance on what we envision being allowed? And hence my question, do we allow ChatGPT or AI or so forth? One of the things that they did have was a demonstration on how quickly they could create a poem on what NISBA is and then make it into a rap song. And this was done within 1 minute. And it was decent for it. And this is what we're kind of dealing with. So, you know, put your bets in on when we're going to achieve singularity, and you guys can look that up for that. So that's kind of my one piece on that. We also talked about...
I'd really like to hear a rap song about NISBA.
No. Yeah, I'm sure. Right, exactly. You don't want me to sing at all. EV buses was obviously a very hot topic during the convention because those deadlines are not moving. And so I think that there were some of the things that came out of the convention is like, well, and members were very vocal about how this is not a one-size-fits-all, that there are so many issues from dealing with how do we handle being able to provide buses for all possible instances. How do we deal with charging? How do we deal with communities if it's voted down as a capital project? Are there alternatives that more rural districts could look at, such as hybrids or other elements? So I think that overall, members were extremely vocal. We're kind of at a point where we need the governor to listen now, because we've said a lot.
And I think one of the interesting things was where a year ago, there was a lot of, oh, we hear you, just give us some time. This year, it was very much the panel that kind of was sitting up there was like, it's not going to change until you show us that it's not going to work. It's not a matter now of telling us, like, you have to show us it's not going to work. And sorry. So that one session, it got pretty heated. And we think that we've got maybe problems around here. There are some districts that have it even worse than we do. It's just surprising. But it's, yeah, there needs to be some bunching at the top level, so we need to be pushing a little harder, I think, lobby-wise. Whether it's through NISBA, but that, I know that there was some things in there for the rural alternatives, but even just, you know, however else we can have lobby day or whatever, getting more voices in there.
One of the resolutions that was passed was that NISBA would lobby for a hybrid option, so that's there for 5 years. We'll see
even the alternative timeline, even just a little bit of grace, which they basically were like, no, we don't think you're going to get it, but we got to keep pushing for it.
And even to mention that California had to push their timeline out. So we can say whatever we want, but the reality is we need to be able to transport students, bring them to school, and get them home. And so how do we do that? So I think the more that we can verbalize that and just say, help us here, because we can wish whatever we want, but the reality is, will we be able to implement? And the dates are fast approaching. 2027 is, I think, when last day that we're allowed to purchase diesel buses, and then by 35, everything switches over. So obviously, it was a hot topic. And then the other...
Sorry, who is they? You say they said.
The panel included someone from state ed, someone from the power, yeah, and
what's the second one? NYSERDA.
One of the bus companies, I cannot remember off the top of my head which one, and was it Values? And who's the other gentleman? I can't remember. There was several different representations, but the big one that kept kind of saying it's not going to change was the guy from state ed and the guy from NYSERDA. You want to do the last one?
Yeah, and then the last one was regionalization. So to kind of bring everyone up to speed on regionalization, then the commissioner issued an emergency order for regionalization. And then it was reauthorized again in November. And what this emergency order was requiring all schools except for the big five to basically provide information on what are some of the programs, what are all of the programs, not some, all of the programs that you as a school are doing, what are some of your needs, and then provide all that information so that New York State can ensure that all students are being provided with kind of the same educational options. So there are a lot of questions behind this initiative as it's kind of rolling out. The first is there's been some questions related to the use of emergency orders and what is constituting the need for an emergency. Is it possible that as the governor goes in and is starting to look at funding for next year, we just came off of a somewhat contentious budget last year where hold harmless was taken away. And so if that were to come back again, it was obviously reinstated, but what would happen? I think that there are some shortfalls in the New York State budget, and so is regionalization a possible way of helping address this? So these are kind of questions that are just being surfaced, and we're not quite sure what's going to be happening with the information. There are several schools that are not on board, particularly on Long Island, and are pushing back fairly strongly on this initiative, saying we don't understand the emergency, and just could you share what the purpose is with the different schools? We've been told multiple times that it is not consolidation in any form, but the question, there's still a lot of questions that are being raised behind it. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we had actually gotten a chance to sit with Quest R3. They hosted a luncheon the one day to kind of give more information on it. And it's hard because I think on the surface it sounds like, oh, this is great, shared resources, you know, we can help each other out. But I think that it opens a whole new can of worms. Personally, I'm concerned that it's going to spiral out of our control and take I feel like it could potentially take control away from the local school districts. I'm very concerned that it was an emergency situation. I think even our administrators were somewhat blindsided by the dates. They were very quick in terms of when they had to have information in. And now on top of that, when they did allow public comment, they've shrunk that down. So the initial public comment period has been pushed into a smaller one. So it's like they keep changing things rapidly, and I don't understand why, but nobody can seem to give an answer to that. And going forward with the financial state of affairs the way they are, like you said, I'm worried what it means for us and for other districts who are rural, who are small. And I think it's something that we need to educate ourselves on. And I think it's something that's worth maybe developing what our platform is.
What are the timelines?
Well, it was initially the information needed to be provided to BOCES by November. The commissioner moved it back to December 1st, December 6th, early December.
Yeah, each school district were supposed to have it into the state by November 1st. The state realized that that was an aggressive timeline for some school districts, so have pushed it back about a month and a half to get that information in. And then that review of information will take place, I believe it's April. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what that's like. We were able to a lot of the information that we had to input came from data sources that NARIC gave back to us, basically. It was a lot of information that we had put in, and they just scrubbed it a little bit and put it back to us, and then our team had to put in a lot of work at Berkshire in particular, and Todd in particular, in getting all the other parts of that together for them. Questar is actually hosting at the end of this month an opportunity for school districts to come together and to work on filling out their plans, because some districts just don't have the setup that we had to be able to get this thing done. So it's been aggressive. The commissioner spoke with us at our superintendent's meeting about a month and a half ago, and the reason for the push from SED was when the governor decided that she was going to have Rockefeller look at the formula for state aid much quicker than what SED was told. They were told they were going to be given 3 to 5 years to get the house in order, really, to prepare districts. So when the governor came out and did that, SED had to follow up and say, oh, we got to move pretty quickly to get information, and the whole idea of being able to share ideas or talk about programs that are successful in different school districts, and then how can we replicate some of those things in other school districts. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's some concern on, as has been mentioned already, what is the bigger picture? What's the 10-year picture of this? And this is part of the reevaluation will take place in 10 years to take a look at, okay, where are we at? What are we able to do? But a lot of it is coming from the funding stream and the fear that New York State spends 75% of its budget on education and Medicaid. And so if they're going to reduce that debt, reduce that cost, it's got to come from somewhere. So we're being told basically that don't expect anything more than you got last year if you can get what you got last year. So as school districts, we're going to have to start to take a look at the increase in contracts, the increase in health insurance and those types of things. They go up. We know that every year. But if the aid that we're getting doesn't go up, we need to find within the region. My big question was not only within Questar, because we're working with Questar, we straddle into Cap Region BOCES, and a lot of the schools that we could access or possibly share with could be Burn Knox, Westerlo, could be schools that are within Cap Region. So they have to expand even that. Regionalization isn't just by the BOCES. It's got to be bigger or broader than that. So there's a lot. I mean, like it at the APPR, we're going to kind of build the plane while it's in flight, and it's kind of the same idea here. But the bigger goal is not within a year, it's going to be over the next 10 years. What's going to happen?
I think my concern is that you just said the bigger goal is the 10-year, and yet it feels like it's being, the timeline of it is, oh, this year, oh, next year, because after the step of entering everything, they've already got deadlines for when they can start having a plan in place, and what are you going to share, and who are you going to share with, and what are you going to do to work with each other. So it's pushing forward very rapidly without anybody having a full explanation of, they just keep saying, oh, it's because of the funding, but what does it mean? Are you doing, is it like being forced on us? And the public comment period was supposed to go out for another few weeks. It's now ending this week. Like, nope, sorry, we're going to cut it off. And I think that's because they're getting so many comments back.
And I think one of the way that the regionalization language reads is that once the plan is in place, it says something to the effect of schools must implement it. So I don't like the word must or shall if I don't know what I'm agreeing to. So we just wanted to kind of keep everyone up to date and just be aware of what was going on. Was there anything else from the...
It sounds like the timing is set up to align with the gubernatorial election in 26. I mean, call me cynical, but just what it sounds like.
They don't do that in politics,
If
do
you'd
they?
like to discuss cynical
They don't,
everything later.
Yeah.
I just think we all really need to be aware, and I think we need to ask some questions of people, and if we like Greenville, and I think if we like what we have here, we don't want to lose it. We need to talk about how we really feel about it at some point. But that's just me after hearing everything I heard and not getting the answers that I would like to have. I think Mike was part of a national cohort of people on safety during one of the presentations. I got to attend that. It was really well done. As always, Mike offers quite a unique perspective. And it was interesting to hear that. And as I said before, Todd and Matt did an amazing job representing Greenville and the work that's done here. They had the room pretty captivated, and all of us were hit with a lot of questions and comments and stuff afterwards, so that was really cool. And cell phone use, which I know Mike had on his list, that was another thing that started to get bigger toward the end of the conference, so I'm sure we're gonna hear more about that. But all in all, if you guys can swing it, it's expensive, I'm sorry, Todd, for the district, but it is really worth the 2 or 3 days to get this education and this information.
Thank you. Oh, that's a perfect segue. Cell phones in the classroom across New York State. Mike?
I wish there was more I could tell you about that, because the government continues to put little nuggets out there kind of where she wants to lead, but there has not been anything from the executive office yet in regards to what the trend is going to be. I know that Tracy, I don't know, Kelly, if you attended it as well. Was it Mayapack?
Locust Valley.
Locust Valley.
Long Island.
Was one of the presentations down, and has been talking about their rollout of cell phone usage and do's and don'ts and those types of things. So as we sit here and we continue to contemplate where we're going to go, I think it's an important conversation that we continue to monitor across the state. And I would like to, at some point, engage our community in this discussion as well.
I was just going to ask you that. I know we had talked about it a month or two ago. I think it was Dave's idea to do a community workshop. Has there been any development, or do we have an idea? Because I really think I'd rather, like you usually say, be proactive than reactive and bring in some voices and start the conversation.
I would say realistically, we're probably looking at January, February, just because of the holidays and then vacations and everything else, but we can pencil in, we can look right now for January or early February.
Tracy, one question I think we should ask ourselves is, are we going to be proactive for our own district, or are we going to wait and see what the state does? Are we going to identify that we have or have not a problem with our student body with cell phones, and note that, and then address it or not address it? I think it might be effective also if we do it at some kind of forum. That would be okay, but we certainly could find superintendents that have gone down this road and had success, and have them be part of a presentation to our public. I just read an article a couple days ago about the entire district of Seattle has done it, and the things that they were mentioning in the article are positive. Students are engaging in with each other and all those things that cell phones tend to take away. And then, like Mike had mentioned, the do's and don'ts. I've read multiple different approaches in this effort, and some of them don't really work. It's a half approach. And I think we need to look at that in our discussion to see what we're going to do, or not, quite frankly. There's pluses and minuses to that.
I think part of the thing is obviously hearing from the community and parents, and I'd also like to know what teachers think, or that is the eyes and ears, and they're seeing day to day what's going on for that. So maybe it's a matter of 2 workshops, so teachers, or we mix everyone together the way that we did previously on some of the other ones. But I think that it is going to be important to have multiple voices. Not everyone's going to be for it, and not everyone's going to be against it. So what can we find that's right for Greenville? All right, next topic, EV buses.
Wow, it's like NISBA just took place right here in Greenville Library here. So I had sent out in our board update the most consequential update up to this point in regards to EV buses. We, as I mentioned a month or 2 ago, that we had gotten approval through NYSERDA for this grant, and now we are now engaged with Cornice as a company that is coming in and doing a pretty robust look inside our capabilities to address the EV bus initiative. They are bringing in a lot of research, a lot of information from other school districts, not only within New York State, but across the country. They have researchers, they have people who know this stuff inside and out, doing some work around this. So we had a virtual meeting about 3 weeks ago, and then they came in on campus last week, I believe, and met with us and kind of went through that task 3 report that I shared with you folks. And through that conversation, we learned a lot about what the work they were going to be doing. I know that there was a few questions that came in from Tracy and Jay in regards to, what's the next steps, and really good questions, but questions that we're not even at a point yet being able to answer. I think Cornice was able to answer, or at least give some guidance to some of the questions that Jay had in regards to that. But they're really, that's going to be more of a 30,000 foot approach at task 3. It's task 4, which they're working on now, will really get down into the nuts and bolts of what it is. What does this mean for Greenville? They've taken a look at everything from temperature ranges to distance of our buses, routes that our buses go on. They got what they call almost like baseball cards of each route, what they can expect out of each route, out of each bus, and really walked us through some of those things. But that'll be a more in-depth conversation. And it's at that point that I would like to invite them in to have a conversation with the Board of Education to kind of give you guys an up-to-date, really be able to answer your questions, but also to be able to kind of lay out next steps. They're working with not only us on campus, but they're working with our energy company, they're working with the different bus manufacturers, they're talking about where the technology is now, where they see it going. So there's, again, a lot like regionalization. There's a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers right now. We're kind of at that stage in our approach, but knowing that we have to start to develop, and their electrician come out and walked up with Todd, Scott, Rich and Mary to take a look at the bus garage to say, okay, how do we get to this point where we don't need to do a capital project, but we can meet that deadline for having our first bus or 2 here in charge? Can we do that without a big reboot of the transportation layout? So, more to come on that. Todd, I'll ask you if there's anything more that you want to add, or Board of Education and questions if you guys have.
I have a quick question. I know you mentioned that they had kind of a snapshot of each route. They've met with some different people. One of the people that we had heard at the conference was a district where some of the roads can't tolerate the weight of the electric bus. And I'm just wondering, do they meet with anyone, or do they investigate? Are they doing that for us here?
I have not heard that as being a concern in anything that I've...
yeah, it's a rural area that has some of those one lane, I know we don't, may not, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Those 1-lane bridges over a creek kind of thing.
Sure. Oh yeah, the bridges would be...
They've been told by the highway department or whatever, you can't put that weight on that bridge.
Right. Right, yeah, that's a good question that we can certainly bring up. I've heard that one before. I know the weight and the cost are much higher than our current buses. But certainly more to come on this. We're early in this process, but we are moving relatively quickly to get some of those answers so we can come back to the board to start to develop a game plan on what to do next.
What's the timeline for the task force report?
Did they give us that at the end of the meeting?
In the next 2 months, I would say.
Will that include the hardware cost estimate? Or do you know, rephrase the question, what will be in the task force report? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I have to go back and look, because task 3 was certain components, task 4 was the next kind of step, but off the top of my head, I don't know.
We can get you that information though.
Another question, from talking to Cornice, what I learned, as I worded out, was that it looks like they did a pretty good modeling of our daily bus routes to understand kind of how to charge and how we could meet that need. That did not include, though, consideration of other bus trips, like for field trips and sports. So when does that get layered in to figure out how we could actually?
Yeah, so what they'll do is they'll use information from past years in which we've gone on field trips and sporting events, those types of things. They will factor in those things because what we'll have to figure out is how do we charge our buses? Does that mean that we have to have an extra bus around to use? But yeah, they'll have to charge all those extras that we've done, and they'll take an average of what we've done in the past, whether it's FFA trips, whether it's trips up to Albany for field trips, those types of things. And layer that into what our draw and what our needs going to be, both from a bus standpoint and an energy standpoint.
Does that also include like if there was an emergency dismissal or a problem?
Yep, yep.
Is that task 4 step, task 5, task 6?
Again, we'll have to take a look at what we can expect in task 4. I don't know.
And Mike, are the fees or whatever we need to pay still included under this grant?
For the study?
Right.
Yes, all this is part of this grant.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we still have some money to pay for the consultants?
Yeah, we haven't paid anything.
Correct. We actually don't pay anything. The funds go directly to them.
Even better.
So we agree to, here's the package of what the consultants are providing for us, whatever time it takes them to get all that put together. The funding all comes from NYSERDA directly to them. And then just one other thought on your question, Jay, about like trips, like an FFA trip or athletics. The other thing to remember is until 2035, we will have diesel buses, right? An electric bus in 2027 is going to be different than an electric bus in 2035. We'll be using the diesel bus in 2027, 28, 29 for those longer trips, so we don't have to worry about where are we going to plug it in. Do we have enough to get there and get back? Where do we have to stop? No, we'll still have those diesel buses for those purposes too.
It's a good point, Doug. It's, looking at the report and the ultimate minute, it's easy to focus on the endpoint where we need to get without keeping the perspective that there's time to transition. And just to the SCD's response of, show us it won't work. I think until we know the cost of the hardware and the increased utility costs and things like, can the bridges that have to be crossed support it? I think that's probably the kind of information they would need.
They basically said, purchase a couple of buses, show us it's not going to work.
I'm sure we
Over $1 million.
I'm sure we can get a structural engineer to let us know whether or not a bridge can withhold.
At that point, I came to Tracy and said, can we leave? It's getting ugly in here.
My only point was that the degradation assumptions are really optimistic. And I think you had mentioned that they're based on fall and spring rates, so a degradation of battery of 20%. In the winter time, which would never know it now, but it does eventually get cold here in Greenville, you could be looking at a degradation of 45%. And so we kind of need average at 20, but we also need a worst case scenario for that, so that, you know, we're not having AAA or someone having to tow a bus to bring it back. Right. Well, no, AAA can come and they can charge. They now are equipped, but I digress. That's all I had for EV buses.
The degradation, I mean, I'm sorry, it's probably not worth saying. I don't mean, the degradation is more a decrease in the battery capacity over time, but like what you were saying, I think is more a change in the bus range affected by temperature.
And temperature. When I turn the heat on, because the kids are on the bus, they're gonna want the heat.
Right.
Then my battery range was just eliminated by 50%. I know that. I can tell you that.
No, I know.
Where
And I don't remember the percentage that they factored in for winter range versus spring range. They did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a significant change, but I don't remember if it was 30% or more or less. So, but it's a fair point because, you know, real world experience can easily be more severe than what they modeled.
So now let's go on to some positive news. 5.6. Mike, can you introduce our newest member? Welcome.
Yes, it's probably something we should have kicked right up to the front here. But Tatum, welcome. And, you know, I think, first of all, I congratulated you at the beginning of the meeting, but I would like to do that officially now and say we are very happy that you've stepped up and agreed to be part of this experience. We learn a lot from you. We saw some of that tonight. I think your voice is going to be a valuable voice as we move through this school year. I know that we've got a kind of get to know us, what do we call those things? Introduction, orientation later this week to kind of walk you through some of these things. But we are really happy that you're joining us and you're a part of what we're doing here and would like to welcome you. So thank you.
It's like, nobody can show up.
And Tatum, the reason that we need to use the microphones is on the recording. It's not so much for us, but that if you watch the recording, then it just doesn't come off, so that's fine.
I'm not going to lie, it does help me. My hearing is going as I age, so.
No, yeah, I like the microphone. This one was working earlier, I don't know.
So that is a perfect segue to, we have 5.7, student representative update, if there's anything that you would like to share.
I don't have anything right now, but I'm currently working on collecting information for like the topics that I want to discuss in like later meetings and stuff, so I'll get back to everyone.
Perfect. What we can do is during the orientation, we can share the calendar of when we set the agenda, and then that way you can let us know, particularly to Daphne, that yes, you would like to provide an update, or not, we'll just wait till the next month. Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful. Do you want to stay? We're almost done, or do you want to go?
We probably have homework to do. And
I don't want to like leave, but like it's okay. We understand.
It's okay. It's been a long day.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I know that I can't vote, and I think the next step was to vote yes. Right. Thank you so much.
And Tatum, I will tell you, our meetings don't normally go this long.
It's fine. It's getting to that point in my year where I have a lot of work. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. So now let's see, we've got the second reading for new policy 2155, student serving. These are the second readings. Student serving as ex officio members of the school board, and then we were abolishing policy 6400, meal charge policy, which we incorporated into 6410. So I don't know if anyone has any comments or thoughts on those. All right, then I'm going to move us down to the action items. Perfect. So then for the next agenda, they'll be ready for approval. All right, so if we can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of October 7, 2024?
Angela and Eric.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the finance reports.
Angela and Eric.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the, to accept the Committee on Special Education recommendations.
Angela, Eric.
Any discussion?
I'm abstaining from the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
Angela and Kelly.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve, to accept the tax collector's report for the 24-25 school year.
Eric. Dave.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the real property tax adjustment for the 24-25 school year.
Eric. Jim.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the resolution of the Board of Education of the Greenville Central School District of the State of New York for the purpose of entering into a contract for cooperative education services.
Kelly. Eric.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to appoint membership for committees. So we have 3 new individuals listed here.
We're removing one.
We're removing, sorry, 2 and we're removing 1.
Kelly and Eric.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any input items for discussion at a future meeting?
I have one. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think this ever came up in a meeting. Did we ever have a public report on the first responder tax exemption and how many people took advantage of it? I wasn't sure if that, I feel like it was mentioned, I don't know if it was in a meeting. If not, can we add that?
During the budget process, would that be a good time to include that in?
It will get included in the budget process.
Can we detail it out somehow? Okay, would that work for you?
Thank you.
All right, let me just write it down. Anything else we want to add for future meetings? Okay, just a couple of reminders, our next board meeting, or December 9th. Where is it going? And then on January 13th, we also have a first budget meeting. So perfect timing. We're talking about the budget. There you go. See, surprise. The closing open forum, the same rules apply to stay during the first open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Do we have any emails? No. Okay. Then I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel matters concerning the employment of a particular person or persons.
Eric, Jay?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.